On SABC News for quality news output and for making us your #1 source of information. SABC News, Africa's news leader.
It's 900 hours Central Africa time on this Monday, the 29th of February, 2016. This is Newsroom on SABC News, Channel 404, Jumbo Africa, and a very warm welcome as we broadcast live from Auckland Park Studios, Johannesburg, South Africa, to the rest of the African continent. I'm Elvis Preston. I'll be with you until 12 o'clock. Now, we're also streaming live on our YouTube channel, the entire show that is, and you can go there and find it on the YouTube channel. Our question for today, we're asking you, our universities are in trouble. There's protests all over the place. Some are supposed to reopen this morning. We're asking you the question, is there a resolution in sight for our troubled universities? That's the question to you. Let us know what's on your mind on the Twitter handle at SABC Newsroom, as well as on our Facebook page. But first, let's take a look at your news headlines. Winnie Madikizela Mandela will challenge her former husband's estate in the Mthatha High Court in the Eastern Cape today. The troubled universities of Pretoria and the Free State expected to reopen today after protests that turned violent last week. And the 88th Academy Awards, the highest honors in the movie industry, were handed out in a ceremony in Hollywood with the blockbuster movie, The Revenant, taking top honors. Those are all your headlines, but first, before we get to the news, let's find out from Kendall what's happening on the sports front. A very good morning, Mr. Makamate.
Good morning, Elvis. You know what? It's a leap year, and it all crystallizes into today, the 29th of February. And what a weekend we had. A massive weekend in terms of the sports. And this is what I'm going to be giving you right now, what's coming up in sports today.
Oh, that might just be it. This will be it. Jubilant the Lions players, jubilant.
The Haifa Lions thrashed the Cape Cobras by 8 wickets to claim the Momentum One Day Cup. This is Golden Arrows break into the Absa Premiership top 8 with a 1-0 win over Platinum Stars.
What a try from the Highlanders.
Ben Smith of the Highlanders scores a try of the weekend against the Blues. A Super Rugby kicks off. That's what we've got for you in the sports. Be back around for that at about 10:20 or so. Back to you, Elvis.
Thank you, Kendall. We'll be back a little bit later, so you'll have to stay tuned. Top story this hour. Winnie Madikizela Mandela will challenge her former husband's estate in the Mthatha High Court today. She is seeking the rights to the former President Nelson Mandela's Tunu home in the Eastern Cape. Madikizela Mandela argues that in terms of customary law, she is the legal owner.
Madikizela Mandela argues that in terms of customary law marriage, she is the legitimate owner of Madiba's Tunu home. But Madiba's will allocated this house to his third wife, Gracia Machel, to be used as a family home. Madikizela Mandela's legal team says she is happy that the civil case will be heard by a full bench of judges from outside the province.
The home at Gonu has been bequeathed to a family trust that must manage the home on behalf of the broader Mandela family. And the client's view is that that is inconsistent with the law.
Traditionalists say, according to custom and tradition, when a man remarries, he is forced to leave his former wife and the children on the property they owned together.
When the two people are separated, that is, the husband and the wife are separated, whether they are separated by death or any other reason, and the husband decides to take a second wife, what happens is that the husband leaves this homestead, which was occupied by the first wife and her children, leaves it and builds another homestead for the second wife.
The matter has attracted a lot of public interest. Local and national journalists are expected to flock to Mthatha to cover the story. One of the key witnesses in the matter is the convicted Abatembu king, Buyelekhaya Dalindyebo. He was one of the traditional leaders who were there when the Mandela family was granted the Qunu site. Zimkhitha Manqinana, SABC News, Mthatha.
Now, for the latest on the court case, we are now joined live from the Mthatha High Court in the Eastern Cape. Our reporter, Zimkhitha Manqinana. A very good morning to you, Zimkhitha. First and foremostly, just take us a little backwards and tell us what we can expect at today's court hearing.
Well, Elvis, this is the day that has been long waited for by Madikizela Mandela, who has been pleading with this court to undo what is written on Tata Nelson Mandela's will that allocates the Qunu home to his third wife, Graça Machel. Today, we're expecting a full bench of judges from Limpopo, KwaZulu-Natal and North Gauteng High Court to come here and hear when the legal teams from both the estate, the executors of Mandela's estate and Madikizela Mandela's legal team table heads of argument on what they based on their claims on. Madikizela Mandela is basing her claims on the issues of customary law marriage. She says when she was united by the Mandela family with Tata Nelson Mandela, customary law was taken into consideration. As we know, in rural areas, Elvis, when you are having intentions of getting married to each other, traditional parts take place. Like, for instance, the family of Mandela went to the Madikizela Mandela to pay lobola. Negotiations took place, and the two families were united even before the civil part of the marriage took place. She is then saying when the marriage was dissolved, the civil part of the marriage was dissolved when they were divorcing. The customary part remained rigid. That one was not dissolved because it's expected when you were united in customary law marriage that you bring back both those families to sit and discuss why you are taking a decision as the two of you to dissolve your marriage. She says that part of the marriage was not dissolved. Hence, she is saying that she has a case that the house at Qunu belongs to her. And she also says that the site at Qunu, she got it with Mandela when they were united, and therefore, in customary law, a third wife must then be given her own site. She cannot then occupy the site that she owned with the second wife. So those are some of the reasons that she's basing her claims on. Just to give you a little bit of what just happened now, we saw one of the executors, Mr. George Bezos, making way into the High Court just a minute before you came to us. So even the side of the executors are here to make sure that they hear for themselves. They're not just sending their legal representatives. They are here to get it to word for word what will be happening inside this court.
And we understand that the Abatembu is not very happy about going to court. Is that correct?
It's not the Abatembu king that is not happy about going to court. However, traditionalists were believing that this matter should have been dealt with as a family matter, should have been dealt with in the jurisdiction of chiefs and traditional leaders. However, the question that everyone is posing is that the will is a legal document. If they take a decision to undo what has been written in the will, it will not be recognized, Elvis, because the will is a legal document. Hence, they are bringing the matter to court. Now, the king of Abatembu is a key witness in this matter, as he was part of the people that were there when Madikizela Mandela and her former husband were given the Qunu site. And what we've also been told is that when you are given a site in a rural area, you don't become an owner. You are just given the right to occupy. And you occupy it until a period where you are deceased, and then it moves generation to generation. consideration. However, the king has the right to remove you should you disobey any rules of that rural setting based on the agreement within you and the community members of the area. So they are saying that that aspect also is key, that Nelson Mandela was not the owner. This was not a townhouse. He was not the legal owner of that particular land, but the owners of the land are the kings and chiefs of Qunu. He was just given the right to occupy and therefore could not have documented it in a will and could not have given it to someone else on an individual basis. So those are some of the things that are expected to be thoroughly discussed in this court. An application has been made by Mama Winnie Madikizela Mandela's legal team to the Eastern Cape Correctional Services heard to try and get the convicted king Wile Kaya Dalindyebo to this court when he is needed to come and explain why customary law must be taken into consideration.
Thank you for that report. That's our reporter Zimkita Mankinana giving us the latest from the Eastern Cape High Court in Mthatha, and she'll keep us updated as to the proceedings there. So you have to stay tuned on your channel of choice, Channel 404. This is Newsroom. The Minister of Higher Education and Training, Bladen Zamande, will today meet Police Minister Nadia Nhleko and the Acting National Police Commissioner Komotso Pahlani. The meeting will discuss the role of police in protecting universities. The meeting will be held at the University of the Witwatersrand. Zamande's department says that the meeting will focus on police's role in protecting university property during student protest, as well as preventing violence and racial confrontation. The meeting comes after several student protests at universities that turned violent and university property was damaged or destroyed. Meanwhile, the University of the Free State is expected to reopen today after it was closed last Tuesday after student clashes. More than 20 students were arrested at the University of the Free State and they appeared in the Bloemfontein Magistrates Court on Friday. They are charged with gathering illegally. Students went on the rampage after university management rejected some of their demands, which included the resignation of the Vice-Chancellor, Professor Jonathan Jansen. For the latest, we are joined in by Palesa Moeti, who is at the scene. A very good morning to you, Palesa, and welcome. Can you tell us what is the latest there? Have the classes resumed?
Good morning, Elvis. Yes, indeed, classes have resumed here at the main campus of the University of the Free State, as well as the South Campus, which is in Mangaung. Now, we're also informed that administrative services are also now available today. We are standing outside the gate of the main campus, where literally today we've been blocked. We're not allowed. The media is not allowed on campus. The only people that have access to this campus today, most probably even for the rest of the week, or rather until further notice, is students as well as university personnel. Now, when we arrived here just a few minutes ago, we found about 3 police vehicles parked outside, I suppose, still monitoring the situation. They've left since then. The only people that are still, maintaining peace and order are security personnel that you might be able to see behind us here. Now, joining me this morning is the SRC President Lindo Ntuli, just to give us an update of what their position is as students. Lindo, good day and welcome.
Good day, thank you very much, ma'am.
Lindo, on Friday, the student body was holding a different view. You felt that you were not ready to come back to classes. But today you are here. Does that mean you've changed your position?
We never change our position. We are resolute in what we want as the student body. Most importantly, the issue is not to vandalize the university's property. The issue is not with the university's property or with any white student. So there is no leader at all. I cannot find pleasure when there is victimization between black and white students. I cannot find pleasure at all when the university's property is being burnt down. What is most important is that we are fighting against an oppressive system. So the system needs to change. We want an inclusive system for all students. The system of the university needs to deal with all students respectfully, regardless of their races and regardless of where they are coming from. So we've decided that we must not delay that academic project in any way. But also that does not mean that the struggle ends. The struggle will continue. We need to be tactful. We saw last week what happened. Most of our students were victimized by the university. Most of our students were tear gassed by the police. Most of our students were arrested by the police. We do not want to find ourselves responsible for that as leaders. We need to find ways in which we can put pressure on management without disrupting the course of the university. We need to put pressure on management without getting any of our students arrested. And that is what the SRC has done currently, is to establish a transformation committee to look into the issue of transformation, to work with residences and to work with associations on proposals for the name changing of residences and the removal of the statutes. So from here on, we are moving forward. Tomorrow we have a mass meeting with the students. In terms of what happened on Monday, we need to sit together as black and white and decide a way forward collectively. But most importantly, we need to acknowledge what happened and where our mistakes lies and where do we move on forward as a collective. This is a time where we need matured leadership. Shutting down the campuses will not entirely solve the problem. We need to find a way in which we can move forward as a collective. And that does not mean that we're ignoring what has happened. We need to address what has happened effectively. The system needs to change. And we're still very clear on Janssen still has to fall because it failed the transformation project. So nothing has changed from our position last week. We still hold the same demands, but also we are here for academics. If we protest until Janssen resigns, what happens if he resigns at the end of the year? Will it mean we have to do another year again as students? It will have a huge impact on us as students, and we need to think about those things. We need to change our strategies on certain issues and find ways in which we can address our issues without necessarily resorting to violence.
Now tell me, last week we saw tensions, clashes between black and white students. Do you believe that it's still tense at this stage?
Well, at this stage, one cannot necessarily say, because we had just started classes. But I can definitely assure you there will be tension between black and white after what happened on Monday. And that's why there is a need for the SRC to take a very positive and bold step into trying to deal with the matters effectively. We need to make sure that this does not happen again in future. We need to make sure that this does not happen to our children. When the rates incident happened, we thought it was the last incident. And came the Muzigwebu case. A student was brutally assaulted by 2 white students. And then we thought it was the last one, and this one came. And we cannot rest until the system has changed, until the system is inclusive and cannot see color, but see people regardless of where they're coming from and regardless of their races. That is the position of the SRC.
Besides what happened on Monday at the sports ground, take us through some of the other issues which you feel that need to be addressed.
Okay. I think first and foremost, which was a standing issue in the memorandum of the SRC, was the removal of Professor Jonathan Janssen as the Rector and Vice-Chancellor of the University, because we've been having these issues under his administration. He's the same man that presided over a rugby match that ended up in violence between black and white and continued the match afterward as if nothing had happened. He's the same man that is preaching transformation by going to residences. You will see what I'm talking about. And transformation is deeper than that. We want the races to be transformed. It's not just about having white races and black residences or having a diverse number of black and white in residence, but also it goes into it goes deeper than that. White students must be able, and black students as well, must be able to share rooms with someone who does not look like them. They must be able to share an assignment with someone who does not think like them. And they must be able to share a cup of coffee with someone who speaks a different language. And that is the South Africa that is envisioned by the Constitution of 1996.
Thank you very much. That was the SRC president at the University of the Free State, Lindo Kuhlentuli, joining us. We've just seen a police nyala going past us into the main campus, just to ensure that today there's peace and calm on the main campus. We'll be coming back to you later again with the management of the university just to hear their position for today. With that, it's back to you, Elvis, in the studio.
Well, Lisa Mweti, thank you so much there from the University of the Free State, and she'll keep us updated as to what unfolds at the university there. Now, the University of Pretoria is also expected to open its doors after it was closed last week. Racially charged disruptions have seen the university close its main campus and suspending its academic program. At the center of the dispute is the usage of Afrikaans at the university. But the Vice-Chancellor, Professor Cheryl de la Rey, says that Afrikaans is not a dominant language. She says all the academic programs are conducted in English. The 2016 academic program will be reviewed to make up for lost time. Our reporter Sipho Steerman is on standby to give us the latest. Sipho, very good morning to you. And how is the situation at the UP this morning? Are students keen to resume their classes?
Very good morning to you. We are live here at the University of Pretoria, and I can tell you that it's officially reopened its gates. Academic activities are resuming. However, there is very tight security here. There's a police presence. There's also on-campus security presence. It's very tightly controlled. Students have to present their student cards to be able to come through. Just here behind me is one of the access point areas where students are queuing to be able to access it. That's how tightly security situation is here on campus.
Now, the student protests have seen the ANC and AfriForum all get together, but has the problem that led to the closure of the university, has that been resolved?
Yeah, that is the issue, because currently the university has reopened after a week and a few days of closures. But then while other students have agreed and other leaders have agreed that the university needs to resume with academic activities, we know that the EFF Student Command, which was leading this call for Africans to fall, it does not support the idea. They're saying that the university needs to agree to their demands first before the university has been opened. So there is that if you can call it that unresolved situation with EFF Student Command not supporting the university being open. But next to me here, I've got the SRC President Thabo Shingange, who's just going to tell me from the point of student leadership, where is the situation at currently. Thabo, we see that the university has opened, but however, we still have some groups saying that it shouldn't happen. What do you as the SRC have to say about this?
I think the SRC would like to furthermore endorse the idea to resume the academic program as quickly as possible because 6 days of a shutdown is really a cause for concern. However, we do implore the management to sit down and engage with student leaders as to a peaceful process of addressing the memorandum of demands from the various organizations and how best we can facilitate that process as a resolution moving forward.
All right, just talk to us about how do you plan to move forward? I know that there's a meeting with management. When are we actually going to get this matter actually resolved? Because we know it's a bit of a stalemate right now. How do you like to see this moving forward?
We have a meeting with the Vice Chancellor, the Executive of the University sometime today, I think from 12, I'm just subject to confirmation. But after today's meeting, we'll thresh out the major concerns and how best, the resolution rather, as to how best we can resolve these matters will come out of today's meeting with a possible boss parade over the weekend to engage thoroughly and critically on the matters that are surrounding issues of transformation in the university.
We've seen that management has just told us that even media is not allowed on campus because they fear that we might instigate some violent protests just by our presence here. Are you confident that the day is going to go smoothly after 6 days of the campus being shut down?
The SRC is confident that once management engages with students on the ground, we can restore the calm and peace as things stand. Insofar as the media and access to campus is concerned, and the presence of, the tightened up security, it is one which we are monitoring to say that is there a need if things are peaceful and calm, or is there no need at all?
All right, well, thank you. That is Thabo Shingange, the SRC President of the University of Pretoria, just telling us that they will be continuing with talks with management and that they've got a meeting later today around lunchtime. As I mentioned to him briefly, that the university is really taking the security matter seriously. They've just told us that we need to move off campus because they fear that even the presence of media, cameras might instigate students to enter into some sort of a protest action. Really here, the mood is that they just want to resume with academic activities while engaging with students on the language policy behind doors.
Now, Sipho, just briefly, how's the ANC and AfriForum going to restore law and order to enforce that as agreed in yesterday's meeting, because we believe there was that meeting? And is there any solution perhaps on the side, especially after the EFF students walked out of that meeting yesterday?
Well, that is what the management meeting that is scheduled to take place today is going to look at, because not all parties have come on board in terms of the fact that the university must reopen and that academic activities should resume. So today's management meeting is going to try and get all the interested parties to come together into a sort of agreement as to paving a way forward, because the VC, we spoke to her late sometime last week, where she said that the whole process of the language policy has been disrupted by this protest action, and that now they are looking to start from the drawing board. So basically the university is really just looking to start afresh and to find a way forward in terms of looking at the language policy, but a way that does not include violent protests. So not all the parties have come on board. However, the meeting that they are hoping to engage in today is going to iron out those wrinkles, if I can call it that.
Sipho, thank you so much for that report. That was SABC's reporter Sipho Stierman live from the University of Pretoria. Now let's take a look at some of your comments today. Now, Higher Education Minister Bladen Nzimande will hold an urgent meeting with the Vice-Chancellor of the University of Pretoria, student leaders and AfriForum, as you just heard there in our report, to discuss racial tensions that have engulfed the institution in the past week. Let's take a look at some of your comments. Please remember to send us your views on the Twitter handle at SABC Newsroom. You can also like us on the Facebook page. This one from Amanda. It says, there are no issues at the University of the Free State. Everything is fine. We are all happy and love each other. The best institution in the world. This one is, says Amanda. Jay says the University of Pretoria extremely tight with security this morning. And this one from Mamodi here says that did Professor Jansen of the University of the Free State resign? No, he did not, Mamohedi. And Isetu says a fire damaged a computer lab in a library after students set alight a car at the Northwest University. How is this okay? Asks Isetu Hassani. Damage at universities and burning down buildings is not the way to resolve it. Is that what he's trying to probably say as well? Isetu Hassani on the Twitter handle. Now you can do the same. Let us know what's on your mind. There's also a question that we posed to you today in relation to the universities, and we're asking you that question. Is there a resolution in sight for our troubled universities? Please let us know on the Twitter handle as well as on the Facebook page. Let's now take a look at the front pages from the newspapers around the globe. Starting off in New York, the New York International Times reports that the Islamic State claimed responsibility yesterday for 2 attacks at a market in the Sadr city district that killed at least 42 people. Moving to China now, the China South Morning Post says that China is capable of fighting to defend its sovereignty in the South China Sea. The Chinese military chief has said amid rising tensions in the region. And finally, in Iran, the Tehran Times reports that the Iranian intelligence minister announced yesterday that his forces had defused 2 terrorist plots before the Friday elections, with a couple of people arrested and ammunition confiscated. Now, those are all your newspapers from around the globe. Let's now take a look at what's happening in the courts here at home today. And we start off in Pretoria, where the inquest into the murder and mutilation of the teenager Anika Smith is expected to continue in the Pretoria North Magistrates Court. The 17-year-old victim was raped and mutilated in a Teresa Park home in 2010. Then to Durban, a man who allegedly stole a sought-after African grey parrot is expected to appear at the Verulam Magistrates Court. And then let's move on to Cape Town. The Zephany nurse case is expected to continue in the Western Cape High Court. The 51-year-old on trial is accused of kidnapping the baby from her mother in Groote Schuur Hospital 19 years ago. Those are all your headlines here at home and what's happening around the courts. Let's now take a quick break and we'll be right back after that.
A very good afternoon. You're watching the Midday Report.
Lunchtime news amplified.
But for now, this is what they call home. Their hope to shift to a higher ground seems to be against the tide.
Midday Report provides you with more than just news stories.
A just want Port Elizabeth to know that they own a world-class theatre.
Good afternoon. You're with the news at 1 in the headlines.
Very good afternoon to you. This is News Live. I'm Natasha Thorpe. Let's take a quick look at what's coming up in your headlines.
Good afternoon and welcome to A View from the House.
For all things news, tune in to Midday Report weekdays at 12 noon only on the SABC News channel.
I'm Peter Ndoro.
And I'm Production Chetty Miller, SAB Miller, and Hauser-Busch InBev. It's something that I need to learn to say more often.
Will together produce around a third of the world's beer.
It is a mouthful. Have you ever considered skin bleaching?
Nigeria tops the list of African countries with 77% of its women bleaching their skin.
Now I can see that it is not good because it affects my face and some of my body parts.
Thousands of Arab Israelis and Palestinians participated in a big rally.
Flight MH17 was shot down by a Russian-made missile.
How those chips may fall is a prediction best left to the currency of time.
That's Primetime News, Africa Journal, and Your World on SABC News.
Welcome back. The Road Accident Fund is a state-supported insurance fund that provides cover to all road users in South Africa in the event of a road accident. The fund is financed by a fuel levy that is included in the petrol and diesel price. Now, last week during the budget speech, the Finance Minister, Pravin Gordhan, announced an increase in road accident fund levy by 30 cents a litre in order to support the RAF. Now, for more on what does this increase mean and how the RAF really works, we're now joined by the Chief Operations Officer, Mandela Jabavu. Mandela, very good morning to you and welcome.
Good morning, Elvis.
First and foremostly, please explain to us who is eligible to claim from the fund and how does one go about claiming?
Okay, thank you, Elvis. The people that are eligible to claim from the Road Accident Fund are victims of car accidents, vehicle accidents. And how do they go about claiming? You need to come to our offices, and we have really beefed up our footprint. We've got 98 offices in different government hospitals right across the country where people can go in and claim. We also have a footprint in all our provinces in the form of customer service centers and fully fledged offices. So you come into our offices to claim, you bring your accident report, you bring your ID documents, you bring whatever documents that relate to the accident, including your hospital records that relate to any treatment that you got from a hospital when you were involved in an accident.
Now, what happens if the person is incapacitated and cannot come to the offices or to put their claim through?
Actually, now that we've beefed our direct claims arm of the business and we've got a presence right through the country, we are able to come out and see claimants wherever they are. We also, and I'm sure you know about this, we have a very popularized program called Rough on the Road, where we go out to even remote areas and see claimants, and we even go to their homes when they are not able to come and see us in our offices.
Now, during the 2014-2015 financial year, you have seen a 20% increase in claims liabilities. Why was that the case? And I'm looking at some of the numbers from your annual report that is coming through.
We became very productive. I don't know, I think it's a good thing because we delivered more as an organization. But the flip side of that is that we saw more claims coming through, but we also saw an increase in our liability. As we speak here, we owe more than 10 billion to various service providers out there. And if I may just correct you, Elvis, the 30 cents that was announced by the Minister of Finance is not coming to the road accident fund. We have not received a cent out of the budget speech. So we are going to have to do more with less.
So the 30 cents for the fuel levy does not go to the RAF?
No, it's not coming to the RAF, unfortunately. And I think the other part that I want to mention is the fact that the diesel rebate, and we've seen an increase in the diesel rebate, now that Eskom has become more efficient. You haven't seen the what was it called? Us not getting electricity.
The blackouts.
The blackouts, yes, the blackouts. You haven't seen the blackouts. But the flip side of that, there has been use of more electricity to ensure that you don't have blackouts. Now, that translates into diesel rebate. Whatever we get from government, there is a deduction of the diesel rebate. So we end up with less as the road accident fund.
Now, there have been some speculation that some attorneys are suggesting that the victims, in terms of the current compensation model, will not be fully compensated. What is your response to that?
Victims are fully compensated. In fact, victims are better off claiming directly from us as the road accident fund because they don't have to pay legal fees, which can go up to 25%. So they are better off. Claiming directly from the road accident fund.
And what do you make of these reports that the lawyers are ripping off the victims?
Unfortunately, we've seen such cases when we go out for our rough on the road, and in some cases, claimants come through to our offices. Unfortunately, they come in sometimes too late when things go sour between themselves and the attorneys. And sometimes we are able to intervene and advise the claimants to change their mandate and come direct. Sometimes it's too late, unfortunately, Elvis, and the only thing we can do is to advise the claimants to approach the Law Society.
Now, Ms. Jabavu, what measures do you have in place to make the claim process more easier and more accessible for the victims? You did mention the 98 hospitals and the broader spectrum, but what else can you do? Do you perhaps do online claims as well?
We're not there yet. We're working on that. But we do have a call center, which helps a lot. And with our offices, in each and every office that we have, we've got a fully fledged direct claims team that deals just with direct claimants.
Now, if people want to get hold of you, any victim out there, how do they get hold of the Road Accident Fund?
We've got offices right through the country. And as I said, we've got customer service centers in those provinces where we don't have offices. We also have a presence in 98 hospitals right across the country.
And do you have a call center number?
Yes, we do. Unfortunately, I don't have it with me, but I'll leave it with the team in the studio here.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for your time. That was the RAF Chief Operations Officer, Lindelwa Jabavu, chatting to us. Now, as you know, we just talked about the Road Accident Fund that provides financial assistance to people that is injured in a road accident or the dependents of those killed in road accidents that is caused by negligent driving. The fund, as we indicated, is financed by a fuel levy. That's included in the petrol and diesel price. Now, this process is mostly administered between a lawyer and the victim when they do claim. Now, if recent reports are anything to go by, that process seems to now be manipulated by the lawyers who have been trusted to victims to assist in claiming. There are reports of overcharging the victims. You heard about 25%, even more, and even a complete rip-off where the Road Accident Fund pays out, but the victim does not receive a cent. The question then remains as to who then reprimands the lawyers who take advantage of vulnerable victims. Now, to answer this question and other related matters, we are joined in studio by Mr. Busani Mabunda, the co-chairperson of the Law Society of South Africa. Mr. Mabunda, a very good morning to you and welcome.
Morning to you and the viewers.
Now, you heard what the Road Accident Fund had to say, but how bad is the problem of lawyers ripping off victims in the country?
The only manner in which we are able to give you the statistics is based on the reports which are made to the relevant provincial law societies. In other words, it is not easy to quantify in the absence of complaints having come through the relevant provincial law societies. But direct to the question, the statistics at the disposal of various provincial law societies depict a low number of these instances. In other words, those are the reported matters.
Are you suggesting that there's no incidents or complaints that came through to you?
No. I'm not saying that. I'm definitely not saying that. All I'm saying is that in order to give a proper quantification of how much or how grave the problem is, there must be complaints, which complaints come through the law societies. But now, in terms of the available information on reported matters relating to road accident fund matters, the statistics relating to that are on the lower end.
Lower end meaning what? What is the percentage?
It's not the substantial. For instance, more recently, as you have pointed out, there's been serious follow-ups wanting to know about the number of matters in which, and then there are these complaints which have been reported and are being attended to by various law societies. The numbers are not astronomical.
But the ones that you've received, the complaints that you've received,
yes,
there is the issue of overcharging by these lawyers and the claiming process is being manipulated. Is that correct? And how do you deal then with that particular issue?
Well, the issue of overcharging, perhaps, and then let's deal with the 25% issue once and for all and pack it aside. With respect to the 25%, there is a relevant legislation called the Contingency Fees Act. It is the one which is giving guidelines on how you should be effecting the charges, and then it does make provision to the effect that you cannot charge in excess of 25%. But let's understand this as to how this act basically came into being. When it comes to road accident victims, these are matters in which you find that the lawyers in general, almost nearly 100%, they do not want a cent from the victim in order to represent this victim. But they assume and bargain with the risk, and then they also have to get experts sometimes who charge quite a lot, and then it's a no-win, no-fee basis. And then that's how they protect themselves through that particular legislation. So overcharging in that particular instance will only arise in the event someone has gone beyond the 25%, or else there is another provision within there. So it's not outright to say that if ever it's 25% or within the 25%, that in itself is overcharging.
If a victim was overcharged more than 25% by any lawyer,
yes,
what alternatives do they have?
Well, the alternatives which they do have in the first instance, from the law society's perspective, is they have to report this particular matter, and then there are structures in place in various provincial law societies, which includes the fee assessment committee. And then after investigations have been done, and then a due process has been followed, and it turns out that and then overcharging has taken place, then there will be consequences for the lawyer in the form of there is punishment which is meted out for that particular lawyer for overcharging.
And what sort of sanction can that lawyer face?
Well, it varies from matters to matters, because there's no general rule which says that in the event you have done overcharging, and then it's a strikeable offense. And then it may depend on the circumstances of the case, and how rife, and how continuous. Is it a perpetual behavior of a person? So accumulation of those particular factors and then of the errant attorney may result in striking, and then there are fines which are being imposed in the event of having done that.
Can the victim also claim back their money with a hashtag that says, "Pay back my money"?
There is protection, but perhaps let me qualify it in this manner. In the event there is clear proof that the lawyer has stolen the money. The attorneys equally do have an insurance for the public in the form of the attorneys fidelity fund. So there is cover, and there are processes which are generally followed out to reimburse the member of the public.
How is your relationship with the RAF as the Law Society, and what is your opinion, the safest way to claim from the RAF? Is it to go direct or is it to go through a lawyer?
Let me unpack the two. The first one being the relationship. I'm aware that, and then in the public glare, an impression has been created that there's a frosty relationship between the law societies and the RAF. It is certainly not so. There are open channels of communication for which I can speak authoritatively to. Through the law society itself, we do have a meeting schedule, and we meet from time to time to deal with the issues and find ways and means on which we can solve the problems which are engulfing society and members of the public in general. But over and above, I'm aware that even at provincial society level, there are those kind of meetings which are going on with the law society. So there are channels which are open, and the engagement does take place.
And your opinion in claiming? To go direct or use a lawyer?
You definitely have to consider the effect. There are pros and cons which do weigh against direct claiming, but there is no automatic right not to. I mean, the public has the right to use the services of a lawyer, and there are enormous benefits out of using that.
Mr. Mabunda, thank you so much for your time and joining us here in studio. That was Vusani Mabunda, the co-chairperson of the Law Society of South Africa. Your take on that as well. Let us know what's on your mind on the Twitter handle as well as on the Facebook page. But remember that we pose a question to you in relation to the universities and the upheaval that we've seen over the past week there. And the question that we pose to you is there a resolution in sight for our troubled universities? Let me know what's on your mind. Let's now take a look at some of the comments around here. Leonardo DiCaprio is the 2016 Oscar winner for the Best Actor for his role in The Revenant. And in his acceptance speech, DiCaprio brought attention to global warming. Now, it's the first time in 6 years. Well, he's got 6 nominations, the first time that he gets an Oscar. This one from Marcus says, I still say he should have won for The Wolf of Wall Street. Now, that was a very good movie. Hashtag the Oscars. Sugar says, congratulations, Leo DiCaprio, for winning the Best Actor and Best Oscars. Much awaited and well-deserved, says Sugar UB. This one comes from Julika, says, congratulations, Leo. You really deserved it, and I loved your speech. Hashtag Oscars at Leonardo DiCaprio. The Ethan says, loved Leo DiCaprio's speech. Climate change is a real thing that needs to be spoken about. So says Ethan, we need to really make sure that we speak about these issues more often. Environmental issues, very critical for all of us, that we curb global warming in order for this generation and more generations to follow, to at least have something to look back onto. Let's take a look at what is happening on our Newsroom Facebook page today. Former Israeli leader Shimon Peres has dismissed criticism over how his country has handled the Middle East crisis. And as you see there's Shimon Peres, and as you know that we just spoke about that also, Leonardo DiCaprio. He finally won an Oscar on Sunday, taking home the Best Actor statuette for his role in the revenge movie The Revenant. Finally, for a moment, just after Yaya Touré's penalty had won the League Cup for Manchester City on Sunday, the hero, Willy Caballero, seemed unaware of what had just transpired in the Wembley final against Liverpool. Now, you can find all of these stories and more on our Newsroom Facebook page, or visit our SABC website at www.sabc.co.za/news. We'll take a short break. We'll be right back after that.
person we're searching for. The guy who steps up, way, way up. The queen of the pop and lock, and whatever this is. The party train conductor, all aboard. The answer is yes, you are that guy, and we salute you, party comrade. Join the movement online.
Controlesa is actually stirring the pot here.
I'm sure they've been consulted as Controlesa. They did not see a snake. Now that in certain areas there are certain benefits that might possibly be accruing, there is a snake, now we need to reverse the process.
I agree, but it is not above the sovereignty of the people. The very same court you're talking about.
The sovereignty of the people, probably you should explain that to me.
The sovereignty of the people is above everything.
It is not proper the way facts are presented to the public. Are you in contact with Khosekgolo Motshodi?
He was kicked out by the court because he wanted to be amicus curiae.
For your weekly dose of all things legal, join Dumile Mateza every Sunday at 2 p.m. only on SABC News Channel.
Welcome back. Did you know there are about 6,000 known different types of rare diseases and disorders in our world today? Did you know that? 6,000. 80% of rare diseases are genetic, and they are present throughout a person's life. Approximately 50% of the people affected by rare diseases are children who do not always live to see their 5th birthday. Now today is Rare Disease Awareness Day. And joining us in studio is the founder and the CEO of Rare Disease South Africa, Kelly du Plessis. Kelly, a very good morning to you and welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Rare Disease South Africa, first and foremostly the motivation behind that. Tell me more.
It was from personal need. My son was diagnosed with a rare condition in 2010, and we very quickly realized that there was little support available. So it was meant to be more of a support group type vibe, and it turned into a big organization virtually overnight, but we're very, very happy that we've done it.
Mm-hmm. Now, in South Africa, how many people have been diagnosed with rare diseases, and can you tell us about some of the more common kind of rare diseases?
Well, statistically, we should have over 3 million South Africans based on our population size. The global statistic is 1 in 10. Affected with a rare condition. So we've identified probably about 50,000. We're looking for hundreds and thousands more. And that's one of the reasons why Rare Disease Day is so important for us, because it's a way for us to go about and actually create awareness and hopefully manage to link in with patients that we haven't yet identified and haven't yet found us.
Mm-hmm. What are some of the more common diseases that you found?
So the lysosomal storage diseases are relatively common in rare disease terms, and because there's treatment available for them, they are looked for, I would say, more. Cystic fibrosis, pulmonary hypertension, things like Guillain-Barré syndrome, myasthenia gravis, lupus, systemic lupus. Those are some of the conditions that are more common in rare disease terms.
Yeah. What are some of the main misconceptions, especially about children with rare diseases, especially taking into consideration our context of culture and religion?
Well, I think one of the big issues that we have in South Africa is in terms of just awareness and a lack of understanding. So many patients that are identified and are physically dysmorphic, there's often a perception that they've been cursed, and there's a cultural belief. And it really works against the work that we're trying to do to get parents to understand that it's not their fault, it's nothing that they've done that have given these kids these conditions. So that's something that we're often trying to raise awareness on. And just to get those patients as children to understand that they're not so isolated, that there's generally lots of patients like them, and for them to feel that they actually belong in a community.
Is there medication available and treatment available for children with these rare diseases? And how difficult is it to get that specialized medication that you're looking for?
Unfortunately, out of all the rare diseases, only 5% have treatments available that are registered. So the chances 5%. So the chances of being diagnosed with a condition and having a treatment available is really, really slim. And when there is treatments available, it is generally exceptionally expensive. If you understand anything about health economics and pharma policies and business, generalized business model, you understand why it is that these drugs are so expensive, because the patient population size is so minimal. So the research and development costs are high, and which makes it very, very difficult. And also, based in South Africa, because of the fact that we have such a high underdiagnosis rate, it's very difficult to get treatment available for 1 or 2 patients in the country. It's a high cost to bring in a drug specifically for 1 or 2 people, which makes it very difficult.
So is it also very difficult to import some of these specialized medication in South Africa?
Yes, absolutely. We obviously have to, many of them have to go through the Medical Controls Council to receive specific approval, and that can take time, and then obviously the cost is very high. And because of the fact that they are so rare, often we find that the funders and the medical aids and Department of Health are not funding these conditions because they're not included in any formularies anywhere, which makes accessing medication very, very difficult for patients.
Now, what support do families receive to keep their children on the vital medication? And have there been difficulties with the medical aids, especially here in this country, in relation to the medication that is sometimes hard to get?
Yes, often we have to do a lot of patient advocacy work to just get the medical aids to understand the need, and also sometimes explain to them what the condition is. Often the medical advisors of the various medical aids haven't heard the condition themselves, so it's very difficult for them to be making a funding decision about something that they understand very little about. So we do a lot of patient advocacy work in that aspect, and in terms of patients, we connect them to one another and provide them with much needed emotional support to make sure that they still feel that they've been comforted and supported through this process.
Now, you had a competition and you also got a campaign going on. This one is called Kiss My Rare. Tell me more about that.
Well, basically, we always say that if you tell a rare disease patient that they're going home to die, they go home and plan a party. They've always got a very, very interesting, dynamic outlook on life. So they're always telling rare diseases to kiss their butts. Yeah. So our campaign's based around Kiss My Rare, and the idea is for people to go out in their jeans for genetic disorders and take a picture of their bum in their jeans and use the hashtag Kiss My Rare on social media, and let's all stand together and unite the patient voice and fight hard together.
And do you have other fundraising events that you are doing in order to make sure that you at least have the funds to assist these patients that come to you?
Absolutely. We fundraise 365 days, 366 days this year. Being a leap year, we are always fundraising. I mean, you can never, treating these diseases is so expensive, we'd be fundraising forever, and there'll never be a surplus of funds. So there's various ways to monitor our fundraising activities, and our Facebook page and our social media is probably the best place to do that, to monitor what it is in our current campaigns. Give
us the Facebook page and the details where people can, if they want to even participate and give you some money.
Yeah, absolutely. We've got a telephone line, 087 550 6888.
Just repeat again.
087 550 6888. And that is a donation line. We have our website, which is rarediseases.co.za. And our Facebook is Rare Diseases South Africa. And Twitter's Rare Diseases SA. So there's various ways to find us. If you Google us, we come up first. Get in touch with us if you want to help us host events, family days. If you want to volunteer your time, your services, there's always something that can be done. It's not always just financial contributions.
Kelly, wonderful. All the best of luck with your campaign, and don't kiss my butt. That is the campaign that she's running, Kiss My Rare, and it's a wonderful campaign. Go out and support them. 087 550 6889. 6888. So it's 888 at the end. So go and find them on that particular number, or go on the Facebook page or Twitter page, raredisease.co.za. That is the website as well as the Facebook page. Go and support them. I think it's a wonderful cause. Thank you for coming through.
Thank you.
Now, that was Kelly du Plessis, the CEO of Rare Disease South Africa. Well, we'll be taking a break shortly, but we will be back at the top of the hour at 10 o'clock. So you don't go away, don't move an inch. Ciao for now.
Controlesa is actually stirring the pot here.
I'm sure they've been consulted as contractors. They did not see a snake. Now that in certain areas there are certain benefits that might possibly be accruing, there is a snake, now we need to reverse the process.
I agree, but it is not above the sovereignty of the people. The very same court you're talking about.
The sovereignty of the people, probably you should explain that to me.
The sovereignty of the people is above everything.
It is not proper the way facts are presented to the public. Are you in contact with Khosekgolo Motshodi?
He was kicked out by the court because he wanted to be amicus curiae.
For your weekly dose of all things legal, join Dumile Mateza every Sunday at 2 p.m. only on SABC News Channel.
Preparing for victory requires intense effort and teamwork. When you get to it, there is no turning back because all eyes are on you. When it's action time, nothing should stand in your way. Sports Live tackles and analyzes all the sport action. This is the home of all your sport news, updates, and more. Sports Live weekdays at 8:30 p.m.
It's 10:00 hours Central Africa time on this Monday, the 29th of February 2016. This is Newsroom on SABC News, Channel 404, Jumbo Africa, and a very warm welcome to the second hour as we broadcast live from our Auckland Park studios in Johannesburg, South Africa, to the rest of the African continent. I'm Elvis Preston. I'll be with you until 12 o'clock. And we have a very interesting question for you today, and that relates to the unrest at the universities. And the question that we pose to you today regarding the university protest: is there a resolution in sight for our troubled universities? Let me know what's on your mind on the Twitter handle at SABC Newsroom, as well as on our Facebook page. But first, let's take a look at all your headlines. The Minister of Higher Education and Training, Blade Nzimande, will today meet the Police Minister Nathi Nhleko and the Acting National Police Commissioner Khomotso Pahlani to discuss the role of the police in protecting universities. Winnie Madikizela Mandela will challenge her former husband's estate in Mthatha High Court in the Eastern Cape today. And the 88th Academy Awards, the highest honors in the movie industry, were handed out in a ceremony in Hollywood. The blockbuster movie, The Revenant, taking top honors. Now, those are all your headlines, but before we get to the news, let's find out from Kendall Makamate what's happening on the sports front. Very good morning.
Good morning, Elvis. Quite a lot happening on the sport front. A lot of action from Friday all the way to last night. And I'd say good morning to you as well. This is what we've got for you in terms of the sports today.
Oh, that might just be it. That's well be it. Jubilant the Lions players. Jubilant.
The Haifa Lions thrashed the Cape Cobras by 8 wickets to claim the Momentum One-Day Cup. And all this as Golden Arrows break into the Absa Premiership top 8 with a 1-0 win over Platinum Stars.
What a try from the Highlanders.
Ben Smith of the Highlanders scores the try of the weekend against the Blues as Super Rugby kicks off. That's what we have for you in the sports in about 20 minutes or so. Be sure to stay with us until then and beyond. Back to you, Elvis.
Muito obrigado, Sr. Kendall. He'll be back a little bit later. Top story this hour. The Minister of Higher Education and Training, Blade Nzimande, will today meet with the Police Minister Nathi Nhleko and the Acting National Police Commissioner Khomotso Pahlani. The meeting will discuss the role of the police in protecting universities. The meeting comes as classes are scheduled to resume today at the universities of Pretoria and the Free State after a week of violent protest. The institutions were shut down last week after opposing students clashed and property was damaged. The meeting will be held at the University of the Witwatersrand. Nzimande's department says it will focus on police's role in protecting university property during student protest, as well as preventing violence and racial confrontation. Meanwhile, the situation at the universities of the Free State and Pretoria has returned to normality. All academic activity and administrative services have resumed as expected by the University of the Free State after 2 weeks of protest that led to the arrest of workers and students. However, the SRC president, Linde Ntuli, says although they support the resumption of the academic program, the struggle against injustices at the university is not yet over. The situation at the University of Pretoria is also normalized and there is heavy police presence at the campus.
I'd like to furthermore endorse the idea to resume the academic program as quickly as possible because 6 days of a shutdown is really a cause for concern. However, we do implore the management to sit down and engage with student leaders as to a peaceful process of addressing the memorandum of demands from the various organizations and how best we can facilitate that process as a resolution moving forward.
All right, just talk to us about how do you plan to move forward? I know that there's a meeting with management. When are we actually going to get this matter actually resolved? Because we know it's a bit of a stalemate right now. How do you like to see this moving forward?
We have a meeting with the Vice Chancellor, the Executive of the University sometime today, I think from 12. I'm just subject to confirmation. But after today's meeting, we'll thresh out the major concerns and how best, the resolution rather, as to how best we can resolve these matters will come out of today's meeting with a possible boss parade over the weekend to engage thoroughly on and critically on the matters that are surrounding issues of transformation in the university.
We never change our position. We are resolute in what we want as the student body. Most importantly, the issue is not to vandalize the university's property. The issue is not with the university's property or with any white student. So there is no leader at all. I cannot find pleasure when there is victimization between black and white students. I cannot find pleasure at all when the university's property is being burnt down. What is most important is that we are fighting against an oppressive system. So the system needs to change. We want an inclusive system for all students. The system of the university needs to deal with all students respectfully, regardless of their races and regardless of where they are coming from. So we've decided that we must not delay that academic project in any way. But also that does not mean that the struggle ends. The struggle will continue. We need to be tactful. We saw last week what happened. Most of our students were victimized by the university. Most of our students were tear gassed by the police. Most of our students were arrested by the police. We do not want to find ourselves responsible for that as leaders. We need to find ways in which we can put pressure on management without disrupting the course of the university. We need to put pressure on management without getting any of our students arrested. And that is what the SRC has done currently, is to establish a transformation committee to look into the issue of transformation, to work with residences and to work with associations on proposals for the name changing of residences and the removal of the statues. So from here on, we are moving forward. Tomorrow we have a mass meeting with the students. In terms of what happened on Monday, we need to sit together as black and white and decide a way forward collectively. But most importantly, we need to acknowledge what happened and where our mistakes lies.
Meanwhile, the University of Johannesburg has raised 31 million rand for the so-called missing middle students. Now, these are students who do not qualify for the NSFAS support, but also do not qualify for commercial loans.
A seemingly impossible task, but a welcome effort that will assist the so-called missing middle. Like second-year BA Strategic Corporate Communication student Kanyisile Sopua, whose tuition fee of 36,000 rand must be paid by June.
Having a parent that's a single parent, that's not feasible because she has other debts that she has to pay. She also has to pay my last year's debt that I owe from the university.
UJ's Missing Middle campaign is already reaping results, benefiting students like this 22-year-old. Are upbeat since hearing how much was raised for the missing middle, especially because it costs an average of 85,000 rand to study here at UJ.
Another opportunity yet again to continue and finish off to become what I want to become.
I really appreciate what the SRC has done for us with the UJ, MEC and everyone.
At least 5,000 UJ students will benefit from this initiative. With the target of 60 million rand by the end of this year, there's no time to rest on their laurels.
We still have 29 to raise to reach our target, and we're working towards overachieving on the target, because the more we can raise, the more people we can assist.
UJ Vice-Chancellor Professor Aaron Drensberg has contributed 200,000 towards the initiative. Mariketa Motlabe, SABC News, Johannesburg.
Now, isn't that fantastic? Remember, vets were standing at 3 million rand, and I think they're still looking for some more money, but 31 million rand raise by University of Johannesburg. That is absolutely fantastic. Another top story here, Winnie Madikizela Mandela will challenge her former husband's estate in the Mthatha High Court today. She is seeking the rights to former President Nelson Mandela's Qunu home in Eastern Cape. Madikizela Mandela argues that in terms of customary law, she is the legal owner.
Madikizela Mandela argues that in terms of customary law marriage, she is the legitimate owner of Madiba's Qunu home. But Madiba's will allocated this house to his third wife, Gracia Machel, to be used as a family home. Madikizela Mandela's legal team says she is happy that the civil case will be heard by a full bench of judges from outside the province.
The home at Qunu has been bequeathed to a family trust that must manage the home on behalf of the broader Mandela family. And the client's view is that that is inconsistent with the law.
Traditionalists say, according to custom and tradition, when a man remarries, he is forced to leave his former wife and the children on the property they owned together.
When the two people are separated, that is, the husband and the wife are separated, whether they are separated by death or any other reason, and the husband decides to take a second wife, what happens is that the husband leaves this homestead, which was occupied by the first wife and her children, leaves it and builds another homestead for the second wife.
The has attracted a lot of public interest. One of the key witnesses in the matter is the convicted Abatembu King Buyelekaya Dalindyebo. He was one of the traditional leaders who were there when the Mandela family was granted the Qunu site. Zimkita Manqinana, SABC News, Mthatha.
Earlier, we did a follow-up and spoke to our reporter, Zimkita Manqinana, who is at the Mthatha High Court, or at the court, and this is what she said about today's court hearing.
Mandela is basing her claims on the issues of customary law marriage. She says when she was united by the Mandela family with Dada Nelson Mandela, customary law was taken into consideration. As we know, in rural areas, Elvis, when you are having intentions of getting married to each other, traditional parts take place. Like, for instance, the family of Mandela went to the Madikizela Mandela to pay lobola. Negotiations took place, and the two families were united even before the civil part of the marriage took place. She is then saying when the marriage was dissolved, the civil part of the marriage was dissolved when they were divorcing. The customary part remained rigid. That one was not dissolved, because it's expected when you were united in customary law marriage that you bring back both those families to sit and discuss why you are taking a decision as the two of you to dissolve your marriage. She says that part of the marriage was not dissolved. Hence, she is saying that she has a case that the house at Qunu belongs to her. And she also says that the site at Qunu, she got it with Mandela when they were united, and therefore, in customary law, a third wife must then be given her own site. She cannot then occupy the site that she owned with the second wife. So those are some of the reasons that she's basing her claims on.
News from further afield. Former Israeli President and Prime Minister Shimon Peres has dismissed remarks that Israel is an apartheid state. Addressing a gathering attended by South African Jews in Sandton last night, Peres said that he believed that a peace agreement would be reached between Israel and Palestine.
Apartheid was a law. There is no single word in our law that discriminates people. Nothing whatsoever. Apartheid was racism. In Israel, racism is a crime. And people also tend to forget. We made peace with the Arabs. They say the Jews and the Arabs cannot live together. Nonsense. We have peace with Egypt, the largest Arab country. To this very day, we live in peace, in friendship.
Meanwhile, as Peres delivered his speech outside, there was an anti-Israel sentiment. A pro-Palestine group gathered outside to protest. They accused Peres of not being the man that he claims to be. They expressed their dismay at his visit to South Africa, accusing him of being responsible for the death of many Palestinians.
Many massacres were committed under his name. But more importantly for us as South Africans is the role that he played in the support of apartheid South Africa.
We're hoping to really raise awareness and for people to become more attuned to what's happening in Palestine and the horrors that are taking place there.
Shimon Peres also stands for apartheid Israel, and we protest today, and we also want to state that South African police services had no right to detain honest protesters who had a legitimate right of freedom of expression.
A senior Vatican official has acknowledged that the Catholic Church made enormous mistakes in dealing with allegations of child sex abuse. Australian Cardinal George Pell was giving evidence on the first day of a public inquiry into child abuse in Australia. He was speaking via video link in Rome. Some of the victims say they are disappointed that he did not reach out to them.
I swear by Almighty God.
Australian Cardinal George Pell being sworn in Rome to give evidence by video link to a commission investigating church sexual abuse cases in Australia. Victim supporters gathered outside the commission's hearing room in Sydney. Pell himself is not accused of sexual abuse, but as the Vatican's finance minister, he is the highest-ranking official to testify on the matter. He previously apologized for the church's slow response to victims' claims and was contrite in his testimony.
But the church is, in many places, certainly in Australia, has mucked things up, has let people down. I'm not here to defend the indefensible.
Some abuse victims traveled to Rome to see Pell give evidence after he said he was unable to travel to his native Australia because of heart problems.
He's saying all the right things. Whether afterwards he does the right thing is another matter.
The alleged events in Australia took place in the 1970s and 1980s when Pell was a priest there. When pressed by the Commission on situations involving particular priests some 40 years ago, Pell repeatedly said he couldn't recollect the specific incidents. But he said too many plausible allegations were dismissed, sometimes in scandalous circumstances.
More than 2,000 migrants are stranded in squalid conditions at the passenger terminals at Greece's main commercial port. The migrants are waiting for clearance from Greek authorities to move northwards along the Balkan route and to richer nations in Europe.
They've spent days in secluded forests along Turkey's coast, and now it's time for these Syrian migrants to sail to the Greek island of Lesbos. Their numbers entering Greece is up sharply compared to this time last year. So Greece has taken things into its own hands, halting travel up to its border with Macedonia and cutting off the migrants en route. Like here, at the main commercial port Piraeus, where 2,000 migrants are stranded in squalid conditions.
And they're waiting. It's so hard. We need to leave. The people doesn't have hope here.
On Friday, Macedonia and other Balkan states agreed to limit their migrant flow to just hundreds a day, all of which has created a bottleneck of 22,000 migrants in Greece stuck in limbo. Like this human mass of 7,000, cramped into the Idomeni camp near Macedonia's border.
I have 7,000 before me. I have to wait 7,000 people, and after that I'm going to go. Just really, it's very, very bad life.
At Idomeni, the wait and living conditions have become too much. Hundreds of migrants demonstrated on Sunday, standing on the train tracks in protest. It's unclear if their protest will be heard. On Saturday, 310 people were allowed into Macedonia. The day before that, 22. 22, as thousands wait and many more thousands on the way.
To the Oscars now. Leonardo DiCaprio has finally won his first Oscar for the survival epic The Revenant. He was named Best Actor at the 88th Academy Awards in Los Angeles, with Brie Larson named Best Actress Oscar for the emotional thriller Room. The 88th Academy Awards ceremony has just ended in the U.S. city of Los Angeles. The Revenant won 3 of the 12 awards it was nominated for, with Alejandro Inarritu winning the Best Director Oscar for the movie. DiCaprio has been nominated 6 times previously for Oscars in his career, spanning 25 years. Brie Larson won the Best Actress Oscar for her role as a young woman that was held hostage for years with a young son in the emotional thriller Room. In his award acceptance speech, DiCaprio referred to various causes that he champions.
Making The Revenant was about man's relationship to the natural world, a world that we collectively felt in 2015 as the hottest year in recorded history. Our production needed to move to the southern tip of this planet just to be able to find snow. Climate change is real. It is happening right now. It is the most urgent threat facing our entire species, and we need to work collectively together and stop procrastinating. We need to support leaders around the world who do not speak for the big polluters or the big corporations, but who speak for all of humanity, for the indigenous people of the world, for the billions and billions of underprivileged people who will be most affected by this, for our children's children, and for those people out there whose voices have been drowned out by the politics of greed. I thank you all for this amazing award tonight. Let us not take this planet for granted. I do not take tonight for granted. Thank you so very much.
Well, that's the Oscars, but there is some controversy around it, and we will discuss it after the sports news. So you have to stay tuned. You don't want to miss it. Right here on Newsroom. We'll take a break. Kendall Makamate will be back with your sports news after the break.
Technology isn't all scary. There's also fun stuff like gaming.
Lots of women do play games, whether it's on their phones or their tablets.
Then there are Africans who are using new tools to make other people's lives much easier.
We typed the whole CV on a small, QWERTY Nokia phone.
For all these and other technology and social media news, join me, Spumelele Zondi, every Sunday at 7:30 p.m. Central African Time on SABC News.
Welcome back. I'm Kendall Makhamat and I've got your sports on Newsroom, time being just after 23 past 10. Top of our stories for this bulletin is about football, where Golden Arrows have moved 3 places on the Absolute Premiership standings from 11th to 8th. Arrows beat Platinum Stars 1-0 at the Chatsworth Stadium just outside Durban.
Of the two teams, Arrows needed to win more. The 3 points would move them further away from the relegation zone and take them into the top 8 bracket. Stars went into the fixture comfortably sitting in 5th place on the standings. No clear-cut chances were created in the first 20 minutes of the match, with the visitors just content to knock the ball around in their half. Zimbabwean Kudawashi Mahashi's free kick attempted goal midway through the first half didn't trouble keeper Mbongeni Mzimela. Poor decision-making by Tinswalo Shabalala after a through ball found him one-on-one with keeper Maximilian Mbaeva cost Stars a goal. So Sikhulela, who was in a better position to score, had Shabalala passed him the ball, fluffed the rebound. The match was scoreless at half-time. Arrows showed in 10 minutes into the second half, with Mahachi's pass finding Rodney Ramagalela in the box. But the striker failed to find the back of the net from close range. Stars were the more enterprising of the two in the second half, with Mbaeva pulling brilliant saves to deny them a goal. Moape Musonda beat Mzimela minutes from the final whistle to snatch victory for the home side. Pesing Katlos, SABC News.
And with that said, here's a summary of the PSL results from the weekend's action. As you can see, no matches on Friday, all matches Saturday and Sunday. Ducks beating Chipa United 3-0 at the University of Pretoria Stadium. And in Potchefstroom, Jomo Cosmos losing 2-4 to SuperSport United. Baxter seemingly working some magic out there. And then Orlando Pirates, they won 1-0 against Bloem Celtic at Orlando Stadium. Then on Sunday, 20th of February, we just heard Golden Arrows beating Platinum Stars 1-0. Both Orlando Pirates and Golden Arrows making sure they get into the top 8 of the PSL. Now, having a quick look at the log, starting with the top half of the log. Sundowns, Wits and Kaizer Chiefs are the top 3. Sundowns seemingly running away with the league this year. They're sitting on 49 points after 21 matches. Less than 10 matches to go. It is theirs to lose, some people are saying already. Looking down at the bottom part of this log, Pirates have moved upwards to 7th. Golden Arrows have moved upwards to 8th. On 29 and 28 points respectively. And now at the bottom half of the log, you see not a lot of movement happening there either, from number 9 through to number 16. You will also notice that not much has changed at the bottom of the log. We're looking at, that is right, that's where we are. We're looking at Free State Stars moving downwards, and then SuperSport United moving upwards. And in 11th position, we've got Ajax Cape Town. They're sitting on 26 points, and they've played 20 matches. One more to go to see if they can get into the top 8 before we get into the weekend. Then at the bottom of the log, you'll see Ducks and Maritzburg United are still at the bottom on 16 points and 12 points respectively, and a minus 14 and a minus 19 goal difference respectively. Now staying with football news, Manchester City's second choice goalkeeper Willy Caballero made 3 crucial saves in their penalty shootout to hand the citizens the Capital One Cup in a thrilling final against Liverpool at Wembley. Here are the highlights.
There's Aguero. And Fernandinho through Mignolet. City lead. Sheer force. Fernandinho's drive, which Mignolet knows he should have repelled. Sturridge. Coutinho. Origi. On by Henderson, in goes Klein. Sturridge! Lallana against the post! Coutinho 1-1! Now it's red! Emre Can. He has a nerve. Fernandinho hits the base of a post, and Liverpool have the advantage. Lallana, brilliant! What a stop that is from Caballero. Match point Manchester City. Score now and they've won it. Yaya Toure! The ribbons will be City blue. It is Manchester City's Capital One Cup again. After 1 year on someone else's shelf, it is bound for the Etihad once more.
There you have it, the citizens making sure that Pellegrini does not leave the club without any silverware. The Highfield Lions have been crowned the new Momentum One Day Cup champions in the final against the Cape Cobras at Newlands. After reducing the home side to a paltry 169 all out in just 42 overs, the Lions cruised to a huge 8-wicket victory with more than 16 overs to spare.
Despite playing in a fortress of Cape cricket at Newlands, Lions captain Stephen Cook won the toss and invited the home side to bat first. And his decision was quickly vindicated as some sharp fielding from Themba Bavuma at mid-off saw the demise of Richard Levy for 18. Seamers Dwayne Pretorius and Phumelela Mashikiwe followed up with 2 more scalps, and the Cobras were in a spot of bother at 43 for 3 by only the 11th over. The Joburg outfit continued to maintain the pressure with the ball, taking regular wickets and not allowing the Cobras any chance to build any solid partnerships. Skipper Justin Ontong was the only batsman who made a substantial contribution. He shared a 48-run, 7-wicket stand with Dane Pitt and notched up his 36th first-class half-century before departing for a well-played 60 runs. But the Cobras' innings unravelled with haste after his departure. They were eventually bundled out for a dismal and certainly well below par, 169, well inside their 50 overs, with Machikiwe and spinner Aaron Pongiso accounting for 3 scalps apiece. The Lions were calm and collected in their reply. Cook and Rassie van der Dusen took their time in putting on a 67-run opening stand before Wayne Parnell made a breakthrough for the Cobras. He dismissed van der Dusen for 29, but the Lions needed a mere 103 runs more for victory. Cook coasted to his 37th domestic half-ton, sharing a massive 96-run second-wicket stand with Elvira Peterson. Peterson, who has been prolific with the bat, the top scorer in the tournament, smashing in excess of 700 runs, also brought up a 50 but was eventually out for 55, a consolation second wicket for Parnell. Cook guided his side to a comfortable but still emphatic 8-wicket victory with 98 deliveries to spare, finishing unbeaten on 77 runs. Samantha Mari, SABC News.
Now to golfing news, where Louis Oosthuizen overcame a nervous start to grind out a one-stroke victory at the Perth International, securing his 8th European Tour title on his first ever visit to Australia. Alexander Levy of France was second. And on home soil, Jakob van Zyl won the Eye of Africa PGA Championship in Johannesburg in a playoff against Dean Burmester.
2010 British Open winner went into the final round of the tri-sanctioned event with a 3-stroke lead, but quickly saw his advantage reduced to 1 after a bogey on the second hole. Jason Scrivener tied the 33-year-old South African for the lead briefly, but Oosthuizen regained his sole possession of top spot after consecutive birdies on the 7th and 8th. Oosthuizen's final round 1 under par 71 for a total of 16 under 272 was eventually enough to keep him ahead of Frenchman Alexander Levy, while Scrivener finished a stroke further adrift in third.
You know, I've missed the first 2, or the greens on second and third, and just sort of a little rattled after that, and I settled in nicely. I just went back to just hitting greens, giving myself opportunities, and then you know, had a good stretch, 7 through to 12, and settled myself there, and I left myself with a vicious first putty on the last, but luckily I had 3.
In Johannesburg, Van Zyl carded 3 bogey-free rounds to start the day with a 2-stroke advantage over Kevin Phelan and Burmester. Burmester carded a final round 65 to set the clubhouse target at 20 under par, but Van Zyl was equal to the task. He dropped his only stroke to par on the 5th, but rallied on the back 9 to force a playoff. Burmester found a greenside bunker on the first playoff hole, and a solid par by Van Zyl sealed the deal. And on the USPGA Tour, Adam Scott survived a quadruple bogey 7 on the 15th hole to move 1 step closer to a 12th PGA victory as he ended the 3rd round of the Honda Classic in a tie for the lead with Sergio Garcia at Palm Beach Gardens in Florida. Garcia, bidding for a 9th PGA win, sank a 6-foot birdie putt on the par 5 18th to shoot 67 and joined Scott at the top of the leaderboard. Vanus Reineke, SABC News.
And so it is that Australian Adam Scott earned his 12th PGA Tour title following a one-shot victory at the Honda Classic in Florida in the United States. Scott outlasted Spaniard Sergio Garcia in windy conditions over the last stretch at Palm Beach Gardens to record his first win in 2 years. It was only his 3rd tournament since the introduction of a new rule that outlaws the the anchored stroke he used for a long putter over the last 5 years.
Tied for the lead with Garcia with 8 holes to play, Scott kept his cool to slowly pull away from the Spaniard. Garcia, who was aiming for his 9th PGA Tour win, would not let go that easily. But he bogeyed the 16th and 17th holes before he managed a birdie at the last to finish on 8 under par overall, 1 stroke off the pace. Scott bogeyed the 16th, but redeemed himself with a short par putt on the final hole to break his title-winning drought, this time with a short putter.
There was a sense of relief, but overall I'm thrilled with where my game's at, and to get a victory is even more satisfying, to just reassure me that I'm working on all the right things, going in the right direction this time of year.
Has now moved up to 9th on the world rankings. Meanwhile, Louis Oosthuizen, who won the Perth International yesterday, also his first win in 2 years, moved up from 21st to 19th with fellow countryman Brandon Grace in 11th place. Liesel Zankel, SABC News.
Super Rugby 2016 roared into action over the weekend with the same kind of breathless action that has made this the preeminent club rugby competition in the world. The Lions won the first Super Rugby match to ever be played in Tokyo, and the Jaguares of Argentina made a winning debut in the tournament against the Cheetahs. But the try of the weekend went to Ben Smith of the defending champions, the Highlanders, against the Blues. Here's how it went.
Scrum coach looking on in the background. Parker gets a little wrap around with Aaron Smith. Battis into a bit of space here. He's got Ben Smith with him. Battis gets it away to Nahuru. Ranger made the tackle to Battis. Ben Smith. Aaron Smith. Ben Smith. Oh, boy, can he get there? No, just short. Vicky Toa has a dab. He's just short. Ben Smith's over. What a try from the Highlanders. 3 minutes to play, and they know they've still got a chance here.
Of course, there's lots of controversy about whether that was really the try of the weekend or not, but we can only do one per weekend. Let's see if maybe you can give us your tips on what you think. Now, here are the results from all of the action from the opening weekend of Super Rugby 2016. As you can see, a whole host of matches, a total of 9 matches played. All there for you to see. Blues 33-31 against the Highlanders. Brumbies 52-10 against the Hurricanes. Cheetahs 33-34 losing in Bloemfontein to the Jaguares. Then the Sunwolves 13-26 first match in Tokyo. Crusaders 21-27 losing to the Chiefs. Waratahs 30 against 10 for the Reds. Force 19-25 for the Rebels. And then the Kings losing out 8-43. Let's see if the Kings can avoid imploding halfway through the season. And then the Stormers beating the Bulls 33-9. Now the log, starting with the South African group log. As you know, we've got SA2 and SA1, as well as Australia and New Zealand conferences. But Sharks, leaders of the South African 2 leaderboard, they're sitting on 5 points. They've got a bonus point. The Stormers, they're second on 5 points as well. Points difference is what makes the difference between these two. Total of 11 points there. Then the Lions, Jaguars, Cheetahs, Sunwolves, and Bulls and Kings bring up the rear of the South African group. We go through to the Australasian group. In the Australasian group, you'll see that that's topped up by the Brumbies, the Australian conference leaders. They've got a points differential of 42 points, 1 single bonus point and 5 points, followed by the Chiefs, who are the New Zealand conference leader, sitting on 4 points with no bonus points. But you'll see as we go along, this will change. And at the bottom, you've got the Force, Reds, and Hurricanes. And that's pretty much where it is with the sports for this particular bulletin. We'll be back with more. We've got an interview that we did with Dean O'Brien from the South African Davis Cup team. Be sure to stick around and be around for that for 11:30. We're done with the sports. Taking a short break. Elvis President standing by with more news.
As stories are broken around the world, SABC makes sure you do not miss out. As the stories unfold throughout the day, News at 8 updates all newsworthy stories worldwide. Globally, we are there. Locally, we leave no story untold. Make a date with news at 8 every Saturday and Sunday on SABC News, Africa's news leader.
A very good afternoon. You're watching the Midday Report.
Lunchtime news amplified.
But for now, this is what they call home. Their hope to shift to a higher ground seems to be against the tide.
Midday Report provides you with more than just news stories.
I just want Port Elizabeth to know that they own a world-class theatre.
Good afternoon. You're with the news at 1 in the headlines.
Very good afternoon to you. This is News Live. I'm Natasha Thorpe. Let's take a quick look at what's coming up in your headlines.
Good afternoon and welcome to A View from the House.
For all things news, tune in to Midday Report weekdays at 12 noon only on the SABC News channel.
Welcome back. I told you to stick around. The Oscars are the talk of the town, with Leonardo DiCaprio finally winning his first Oscar for survival epic The Revenant. Now, he was named Best Actor at the 88th Academy Awards in Los Angeles, with Brie Larson named Best Actress Oscar for the emotional thriller Room. The Revenant won 3 of the 12 awards it was nominated for, with Alejandro Inarritu winning the Best Director Oscar for the movie. DiCaprio has been nominated 6 times previously. It's a long haul for him, and for the Oscars in his career spanning 25 years, he finally won one. Brie Larson won the Best Actress Oscar for her role as the young woman that was held hostage for years with a young man or a young son in the emotional thriller Room. In his award acceptance speech, DiCaprio referred to various causes that he champions. But as we indicated earlier, there's some controversy about these Oscars, and they were in the spotlight for the usual glitz and glam and the prestige. However, the row over racial diversity dominated the run-up to this year's awards, prompting several leading black actors and directors to stay away. The Oscars So White hashtag controversy has grown wider than the Dolby Theatre this week following the Academy's announcement of its second straight slate of all-white acting nominees. Joining us now in studio is the founder of Rapid Lion, Mr. Eric Mnyeni. Mr. Mnyeni, a very good morning to you and welcome.
Hi, thanks for having me. Yeah.
First and foremostly, they say it's the most prestigious event in the film industry, the Oscars. What do you make of the awards?
Well, the Oscar is great. I mean, if you win that thing and you are white, you get to have a career for life. But it has been known to kill black careers. I know at one stage, Alfre Woodard was nominated, and she had been working steadily until that point. And guess what? For the next 2 to 3 years, she actually got very little work after the Oscar nomination.
Winning the Oscar?
Not winning it, she was nominated. And then she had to work her way back up. So what you are seeing this year is obviously the aftermath of 12 Years a Slave. The Oscars thought, ooh, that left a bitter taste in our mouths. We need a mouthwash, you know, so they got a whitewash. I mean, if you remember, in 2014, 12 Years a Slave got Oscar for Best Picture, it got Best Supporting Actor, and I think it got Best Adapted Screenplay. Correct, so, yes. And then 2 years after that, no major award nominations for any black actor. So, yeah, they are sort of kicking back and saying, okay, hey, this is our house now. You've had enough. Just hold off outside the door. You know?
All the nominees predominantly white. Do you think that they really truly deserve those nominations, or is there larger underlying issues that we are not looking at here?
I always give myself the chance to see especially the acting roles when the Oscars come, and I watch the movies just to see if my predictions are correct, and often I am. So you can't fault any of the nominees. I mean, they are great films. They are great actors and all of that. I thought it was weird that Will Smith did not get a nod for Concussion, which I thought he was phenomenal in. He did an incredible job. So that was weird. But then again, you know, DiCaprio could have won at some point, but he didn't. There were many times when Al Pacino should have won, but he didn't. So the main thing now is why are black people so upset?
And it's also about that Africanness or the African Americanness that is missing out of the Oscar this year. And I mean, that is the driving point here that they are saying. Straight Outta Compton, a very good movie, as well as you mentioned Concussion, and there was another one, A Beast of No Nation, not making it to the top or even a nod.
Well, the interesting is that Straight Outta Compton got a nod for best screenplay, and yet the screenwriters are white people. so they chose the only white thing in the film, or one of the white things in the film, and they nominated it. But my view is very simple, Elvis, and I think it's about time black people stopped insisting on being invited to other people's parties. I would find it more interesting if Spike Lee was fighting with Tyler Perry for not finding his movies. I mean, Tyler Perry started the only black-built movie studio from the ground up. So if he doesn't fund Spike, it would be like your cousin not inviting you to the birthday party. So I would find that a bigger fight. But Hollywood has always been white. It was built by white people. They built the business, and they can choose who they want, frankly speaking. For us, we thought, why not start something that we, hopefully can build to rival the Oscars outside of the mature industries of North America and Europe. So,
because you're talking about that, because Bollywood has got one, the Oscars, of course, in America. What about Africa? I see you got something here in front of us here, which looks absolutely magnificent, and it's very heavy. I held it up a little bit earlier. Yeah.
This is the Rapid Lion. We'll be giving the inaugural Rapid Lion Awards on the 16th of March this year. Which is during the Rapid Lion Film Festival 2016, the inaugural one. And we hope it's 65 years down the line. When we did, we'll be looking from above and people will still be awarding this statue. It's, as you can see, it's the African symbol of excellence. Way before we could write words, communities in Africa had symbols for everything. A symbol of unity, a symbol for peace, a symbol for... This is the symbol for excellence. It's over 2,000 years old by the Andinkra people of West Africa. And atop that, we put a lioness to say, this is the hardest worker in the pride, this is the most intelligent in the pride and the most caring. And if you have the ferocious focus of a lioness, you will attain excellence. And of course, this award goes to BRICS countries, Africa and African diaspora. So we are saying, can we have an Oscar-type award, a Cannes-type festival that promotes and celebrates films outside of the mature industries of Europe. And that way, we build our own party. Yes. And then other people can have hashtag Rapid Lion So African.
Yes. I like that. And is there a reason for the platinum and not gold in this?
Absolutely. Case? I mean, South Africa produces the highest amount of platinum. Everybody knows it's very seldom that gold is valued higher than platinum in terms of value in the market. So we thought, why? Let the Oscar be gold, we'll be platinum. Let the Oscar weigh 4 kilograms, we'll weigh 8 kilograms. So this is double the Oscar's weight. Yes. And it's just about 20 millimeters shorter, but a lot broader. A beautiful statue. And it's made by the same company that makes the Oscar, by the way, R.S. Owens and Company in Chicago. So
wonderful. We should have actually brought it back to Africa again, you see, and made it here. But anyway, let's go.
Technically, we couldn't find a company that could do it,
But let's go back to the United States and the Oscars. Now, Reverend Al Sharpton, the black civil rights activist, he led a demonstration just before the Oscars to protest against, of course, the shall we call, the all-white shortlist that the Oscars had. Do you think that this is something that we will see become a much more larger issue in years to come, or was just this a once-off in terms of...
Personally, I hope it is a once-off. At the moment, what we are struggling to get support for Rapid Lion in terms of the industry, we are hoping to get more and more white South Africans understand that this is for all of us, and that we should all participate, that we should all wear... yesterday, the Metro Awards for the musicians, every musician who's anybody was out there looking amazing. They are leading the trend. And actors, filmmakers, directors are not having a really amazing red carpet event that tells South Africans that they're there, they're doing great work, and they need to be celebrated. So we hope we're going to get more and more people follow us there. Personally, I would rather see less and less of the Al Sharptons, trying to fight to get into other people's parties. If somebody's got a wedding and they're a stranger, I don't have to invite you. But you can have your own wedding, and invite who you want. And we need to get to that way of thinking as Africans all across the world. Why don't we start our own things? It's not easy to build and keep going something like the Oscars for over 80 years.
Now, looking at the African Awards, the Lion Awards, as you call it, if you take this, would it be able for a Spike Lee and a Denzel Washington also to participate in an award like this to give it more credibility?
Absolutely. I mean, Africa and African diaspora, this is where they can fly to. They can come and participate in any way. We can invite them to be head of the jury if we want. So they can participate and hopefully help us build this thing so that it becomes that wonderful thing. And I don't mind if they decide to have their own, they do have awards there, but their awards are quite essentially very, very black, and very few whites fight and protest to go in. And you can ask yourself, why is that? Maybe that means yours is of less value. I think you build your thing to a point where everybody thinks it's amazing and everybody wants to be there, instead of trying to break down every other person's door. Build your own house. Let's do that. Let's try and do that. Let's help each other build beautiful things, yeah.
How do we build our own house? Is it only to promote black artists in this country, or is it about African films and the BRICS countries, as you also indicate?
This is to promote film outside of the mature industries of Europe and North America. This is to help African filmmakers compete with some of the best filmmakers in the world in order to become better. So we've got Chinese filmmakers competing, Brazilian filmmakers competing, Russian filmmakers competing. If you want to know how good these guys are, I keep telling people, Tarantino will tell you the best lessons he got for filmmaking were from Chinese movies. If you don't know this, the Russians were the very first people to put two unrelated pictures together to create to tell a new story. So editing didn't exist until the Russians came aboard. Battleship Potemkin is considered one of the best films ever made. It's Russian. So we are bringing the best. We are not saying, look at your own belly, compete alone. No, compete with the best in the world. They just don't have to come from North America and Europe. Compete with the best in the world and improve your craft to a point where at any given time, when they look, they go like, wow, this is one of the best films. It just happens to come from Mauritania, like Timbuktu did, you know. Yes. So it's about getting better. It's about knowing your craft. It's about celebrating the best of what you have. By the way, we have American filmmakers coming through our short film section, our documentary section. We've got Swedish filmmakers coming, Australian filmmakers. We've got about 27 countries represented rapidly, and we hope that will grow going forward. But the key focus is South Africa. South Africa in its totality. White people, Indian people, black people. I feel like I'm going back to my apartheid days where I have to tell everyone by race, this is yours. I was hoping I'd just say, we have a rapid line. It's an amazing thing. It's for the industry to grow, for the industry to market itself to South Africans so they can flock there and watch your movies. Come through, come to the festival and come watch the people win the award.
Come get your rapid line.
Come win your rapid line.
Mr. Mieni, thank you so much for your time.
Thanks for having me.
That was Eric Mieni. His thoughts on the rapid line. Look at it. Very impressive. That's your own Oscar, your own African Oscar. That's what he calls it. Right. It's now time. It's, as you know, the comments that we looked at normally in the run-up to the Oscars, there were a number of protests and outrage on social media due to the lack of the diversity in the nominations with the hashtag #OscarsSoWhite making the rounds. So let's now look at some of those tweets. And if I just turn here, this one from Pop Isn't Dead. It says, the Oscars have always been about talent, not race. If not, then why are British people winning awards? #OscarsSoWhite hashtag, and Chris Rock as well. I'm confused, says Kay. I thought the #OscarsSoWhite hashtag was to promote diversity, but all I hear about was saying not all black people were nominated. Is that all were nominated? Chris Rock, this one from Lisa Chang, says Chris Rock's sorority comment on the unintentional racism hit so dead on my heart just stopped beating, says Lisa Chang. #OscarsSoWhite, that is the hashtag there, hashtag Oscars. These are some of your comments that you got through to us. But remember, there's a number of there's a question that we posed to you, and we want your comments, and we'll read some of them a little bit later. That relates to university protests that we've seen in the country, and we're asking you, is there light at the end of that dark tunnel? Let me also know on the Twitter handle at SABC Newsroom, also on the Facebook page. Like us there, and you become part and parcel of the Newsroom crew. Now, let's take a look at what is happening on our Newsroom Facebook page today. And there are no investigations, it seems, that are being conducted against the Finance Minister, Pravin Gordhan. That's according to the Hawk spokesperson, Brigadier Hangwani Malawutsi. as you can see it there on the Facebook page. And the economic freedom fighter student leader at the University of Pretoria, Kabelo Gwani, says that students want to be recognized and given a platform to negotiate with the Higher Education Minister, Blade Nzimande, and the university management. But that is not what I'm seeing there. That's a UP student there. A leader justifies what he calls that. And finally, the Deputy Minister of Agriculture, Becky Cele, will today visit drought-stricken areas in the northwest. Now, these are some of your stories on the Facebook page. You can find all of these stories on our Newsroom Facebook page, or you can visit www.sabc.co.za/it with the news, and you can find all those stories there. It's now time to take a look at our newspapers from around the African continent. Let's start off with Lesotho. And the Lesotho Times there reports that Maputo-based Ace Apparel International fired 900 workers this week for taking part in an illegal strike. Moving to Namibia, the Namibian says that government will spend $15 million Namibian for the reintroduction of a diploma program for under and unqualified teachers at junior primary level, with the first intake earmarked for May. And then finally in Swaziland, the Swaziland Observer reports that one of King Maja II's wife, Nkosinathi Labafana, was on Saturday installed as the new leader of the Mamba clan. Those are the papers from the continent. We'll take a short break, and after that, the weather update with Tsetsi Monare. In fact, we're going straight to Tsetsi Monare with your weather forecast.
Welcome from the weather desk. So let's have a look at your weather. Partly cloudy skies are expected towards the northeastern parts of southern Africa into Zimbabwe. Do expect temperatures to drop quite a bit there, and then we're expecting cloudy conditions to spread over the northwest province, some parts of the Free State, and over the KwaZulu-Natal regions. Otherwise, clear skies are expected for the southwestern regions. Possibilities of veld fires coming in over the Northern Cape, as well as some parts of the Western Cape. That will lead to temperatures being really hot along the western side of South Africa. There we go. Upington, just reaching a maximum of 38 degrees. There is possibilities of showers, very light chance of rainfall expected along those parts. And then sunny skies from Cape Town, closer towards Port Elizabeth as well, with a bit of clouds building up along those interior. Harare, 21 degrees. As I mentioned, cooler conditions are expected along those parts. And we're expecting isolated as well as scattered showers just over the central parts of the tropics, basically towards the DRC, as well as over much of the coastal parts from Libreville stretching down into Luanda. You should expect a bit of rain. Some of it will be moving towards the southern part of Rwanda, covering some parts of Uganda and over Burundi. Do expect those partly cloudy skies to continue this afternoon as well as tomorrow. Over the western side, yes, there will be rain. Temperatures still staying along the lower 30s, about 33 for Kinshasa, 32 towards Brazzaville, and then slightly cooler weather for Kampala at 25 degrees, but very hot as you move towards the northern parts. Into South Sudan, temperatures for Juba at 41 degrees. Northern Sudan is also just as hot. Addis Ababa being the odd one out with cooler conditions. Your maximum temperatures there only at 24 degrees. And do be prepared for a very dry day again towards the central parts of North Africa. Nothing in terms of rainfall is expected along these parts, even towards the Middle East. Still a little bit of clouds that are developing for Riyadh, going all the way towards Mecca. Your temperatures are expected to be into the upper 30s for most parts. For Al Jouf at 36 degrees, Agadez at 39, including El Fasher, as well as Khartoum. Those are into your upper 30s. Mecca is at 38 degrees, sunny skies for Sanaa, and partly cloudy skies returning towards Riyadh. And most of the Middle East do expect a bit of sunny conditions for Baghdad, Damascus, and over northern Africa. Do expect partly cloudy skies only towards Marrakesh and Rabat. But the minute you come through over the southern parts of Morocco, so starting from Marrakesh, in fact, should expect sunny skies. A little bit of rain for Abidjan, going all the way to Lagos, as well as into the southern parts of Cameroon. Those rainy conditions will persist for about 2 or 3 days, and then all you should expect is dry weather as temperatures are expected to increase and hot conditions will be coming up. Look at Niamey, temperatures there at 43 degrees, 38 towards Bamako, but then along the coastal part, it's much cooler. Dakar, 23, and about 18 is expected towards Las Palmas. That is where I'll leave it for the weather for now. Do stay tuned. There'll be more here on the Newsroom.
A very good evening to you. Welcome to Business Review. I'm Frances Hurd.
Join us as we unpack each day's top business stories and tell you what matters without the jargon.
The general tone of this is interventionist. It's quite sort of, pie in the sky, really, in some degree.
We look at where South Africa's investment opportunities lie.
Our relationship with China is based on mutual respect.
And bring you top newsmakers and analysts.
This is not the World Bank. World Bank places conditionalities.
I've learned not to expect anything from the regulator in terms of moving faster on licensing.
We will definitely see inflation increase. I think we will peak very close to 7% during the first quarter of next year.
That's Business Review with Frances Hurd, weekdays at 6 p.m. on the SABC News Channel.
I'm Peter Ngo.
And I'm Prabhakshini Chetty Miller, SAB Miller, and Hauser Bush Imbev. It's something that I need to learn to say more often.
Will together produce around a third of the world's beer.
It is a mouthful. Have you ever considered skin bleaching?
Nigeria tops the list of African countries with 77% of its women bleaching their skin.
Now I can see that it is not good because it affects my face and some of my body parts.
Thousands of Arab Israelis and Palestinians participated in a big rally. Flight MH17 was shot down by a Russian-made missile.
How those chips may fall is a prediction best left to the currency of time.
That's Primetime News, Africa Journal, and Your World on SABC News.
It's 1100 hours Central Africa time on this Monday, the last day of February, the 29th, 2016. This is Newsroom. SABC News, Channel 404, Jumbo Africa, and a very warm welcome to the final hour as we broadcast live from Auckland Park Studios in Johannesburg to the rest of the African continent. I'm Elvis Preslin. I'll be with you until 1200 hours. As you know, we're also streaming live on YouTube with the entire show now available on our YouTube channel. The question of the day that we pose to you, university protests, you've seen it. Is there a resolution in sight for our troubled universities? Let me know on the Twitter handle at SABC Newsroom. Also like us on the Facebook page. But first, let's take a look at your headlines. The Minister of Higher Education and Training, Bladen Zamande, will today meet the Police Minister Nathi Nhleko and Acting National Police Commissioner Komotso Bahlani to discuss the role of police in protecting universities. Winnie Madikizela Mandela is challenging her former husband's estate in the Mthatha High Court in the Eastern Cape today. And the 88th Academy Awards, the highest honors in the movie industry, were handed out at a ceremony in Hollywood last night, with the blockbuster movie The Revenant taking top honors. Well, more like this morning, wasn't it? Well, that's all your headlines, but before we get to the news, let's hear from Kendall Makamate. What's coming up in the sports news?
Good morning, Elvis. Quite a lot coming up in the sports. It's been a massive weekend for Super Rugby fans, as well as quite a lot of action on the footballing front as well. Good morning to you. This is what we have for you in the sports today. The Hyper Lions thrashed the Cape Cobras by 8 wickets to claim the Momentum One-Day Cup.
The 12X, jubilant the Lions players, jubilant the captain of the Lions. They are the Momentum One-Day Cup champions.
All this as Golden Arrows break into the Absa Premiership top 8 with a 1-0 win over Platinum Stars.
What a try from the Highlanders!
And Ben Smith of the Highlanders scores this team try of the weekend against the Blues as Super Rugby kicks off. That's what we have for you in the sports. I'll also be showing a chat that I had with Dean O'Brien from the South African Davis Cup team. Make sure you stick around for that, about 11:30 or so. Back to you, Elvis.
Thank you, Kendall. You'll be back later. But our top story this hour. The Minister of Higher Education and Training, Bladen Nzimande, will today meet the Police Minister, Nathi Nhleko, and the Acting National Police Commissioner, Khomotso Pahlani. The meeting will discuss the role of police in protecting universities. The meeting comes as clashes are scheduled to resume today at the universities of Pretoria and the Free State after a week of violent protest. The institutions were shut down last week after opposing students clashed and property was damaged. The meeting will be held at the University of the Witwatersrand. Nzimande's department says it will focus on police's role in protecting university property during student protests, as well as preventing violence and racial confrontation. Meanwhile, all activities are back to normal at the universities of Pretoria and the Free State after protests caused both institutions to close last week. At the University of Pretoria, only students who can produce their student cards are allowed inside the campus. The situation at the University of the Free State has returned to normality after 2 weeks of protest that led to the arrest of workers and students. University of the Free State SRC President Lundo Kuhle Ntuli says although they support the resumption of the academic program, the struggle against injustices at the university is not over.
I think the SRC would like to furthermore endorse the idea to resume the academic program as quickly as possible because 6 days of a shutdown is really a cause for concern. However, we do implore the management to sit down and engage with student leaders as to a peaceful process of addressing the memorandum of demands from the various organizations and how best we can facilitate that process as a resolution moving forward.
All right, just talk to us about how do you plan to move forward? I know that there's a meeting with management. When are we actually going to get this matter actually resolved? Because we know it's a bit of a stalemate right now. How do you like to see this moving forward?
We have a meeting with the Vice Chancellor, the Executive of the University sometime today, I think from 12, I'm just subject to confirmation. But after today's meeting, we'll thresh out the major concerns and how best, the resolution rather, as to how best we can resolve these matters will come out of today's meeting with a possible boss parade over the weekend to engage thoroughly on and critically on the matters that are surrounding issues of transformation in the university.
We never change our position. We are resolute in what we want as the student body. Most importantly, the issue is not to vandalize the university's property. The issue is not with the university's property or with any white student. So there is no leader at all. I cannot find pleasure when there is victimization between black and white students. I cannot find pleasure at all when the university's property is being burnt down. What is most important is that we are fighting against an oppressive system. So the system needs to change. We want an inclusive system for all students. The system of the university needs to deal with all students respectfully, regardless of their races and regardless of where they are coming from. So we've decided that we must not delay that academic project in any way. But also that does not mean that the struggle ends. The struggle will continue. We need to be tactful. We saw last week what happened. Most of our students were victimized by the university. Most of our students were tear gassed by the police. Most of our students were arrested by the police. We do not want to find ourselves responsible for that as leaders. We need to find ways in which we can put pressure on management without disrupting the course of the university. We need to put pressure on management without getting any of our students arrested. And that is what the SRC has done currently, is to establish a transformation committee to look into the issue of transformation, to work with residences and to work with associations on proposals for the name changing of residences and the removal of the statutes. So from here on, we are moving forward. Tomorrow we have a mass meeting with the students. In terms of what happened on Monday, we need to sit together as black and white and decide a way forward collectively. But most importantly, we need to acknowledge what happened and where our mistakes lies.
We'll get an update from the University of Free State in a short while, so you have to stay tuned. Meanwhile, the Mthatha High Court in the Eastern Cape has started hearing Winnie Madikizela Mandela's claim against her former husband Nelson Mandela's estate. She is demanding the rights to Madiba's Qunu home outside Mthatha. She's arguing that in terms of customary law, She is the legitimate owner of the home. Madiba's will allocated it through the Mandela Trust to his third wife, Gracia Machel, to be used as a family house. Now, earlier we spoke to our reporter Zimkita Magdanana, who is at the Mthatha court, and this is what she said about today's court hearing. Well, it seems we haven't got that particular insight. We'll come back to that. A senior Vatican official has acknowledged that the Catholic Church made enormous mistakes in dealing with allegations of child sex abuse. Australian Cardinal George Pell was giving evidence on the first day of a public inquiry into child abuse in Australia. He was speaking via video link in Rome. Some of the victims say they are disappointed that he did not reach out to them.
I swear by Almighty God.
Australian Cardinal George Pell being sworn in Rome to give evidence by video link to a commission investigating church sexual abuse cases in Australia. Victim supporters gathered outside the commission's hearing room in Sydney. Pell himself is not accused of sexual abuse, but as the Vatican's finance minister, he is the highest-ranking official to testify on the matter. He previously apologized for the church's slow response to victims' claims and was contrite in his testimony.
But the church has, in many places, certainly in Australia, has mucked things up, has let people down. I'm not here to defend the indefensible.
Some abuse victims traveled to Rome to see Pell give evidence after he said he was unable to travel to his native Australia because of heart problems.
He's saying all the right things. Whether afterwards he does the right thing is another matter.
The alleged events in Australia took place in the 1970s and 1980s when Pell was a priest there. When pressed by the Commission on situations involving particular priests some 40 years ago, Pell repeatedly said he couldn't recollect the specific incidents. But he said too many plausible allegations were dismissed, sometimes in scandalous circumstances.
Leonardo DiCaprio has finally won his first Oscar for survival epic, The Revenant. He was named Best Actor at the 88th Academy Awards in Los Angeles, with Brie Larson named Best Actress and getting an Oscar for the emotional thriller Room. The 88th Academy Awards ceremony has just ended in the U.S. city of Los Angeles. As we indicated earlier, The Revenant won 3 of the 12 awards that it was nominated for, with Alejandro Inarritu winning the Best Director Oscar for the movie. DiCaprio has been nominated 6 times previously for Oscars in his career spanning 25 years, and it's the first one that he's getting. Brie Larson won the Best Actress Oscar for her role as the young woman that was held hostage for years with a young son in the emotional thriller Room. In his award acceptance speech, DiCaprio referred to various causes that he champions.
The Revenant was about man's relationship to the natural world, a world that we collectively felt in 2015 as the hottest year in recorded history. Our production needed to move to the southern tip of this planet just to be able to find snow. Climate change is real. It is happening right now. It is the most urgent threat facing our entire species, and we need to work collectively together and stop procrastinating. We need to support leaders around the world who do not speak for the big polluters or the big corporations, but who speak for all of humanity, for the indigenous people of the world, for the billions and billions of underprivileged people who will be most affected by this, for our children's children, and for those people out there whose voices have been drowned out by the politics of greed. I thank you all for this amazing award tonight. Let us not take this planet for granted. I do not take tonight for granted. Thank you so very much.
That's the Oscars there for you. We'll take a short break and we'll be right back after that.
For victory requires intense effort and teamwork. When you get to it, there is no turning back. Because all eyes are on you. When it's action time, nothing should stand in your way. Sports Live tackles and analyzes all the sport action. This is the home of all your sport news, updates, and more. Sports Live weekdays at 8:30 p.m.
Get all the latest news from the SABC's online news services on our website. Breaking news and in-depth coverage of everything from business, sports to politics and lifestyle. Catch the top news clips and watch live streaming of major news events on the SABC News YouTube channel whenever. Stay connected on the SABC News Facebook page and have your say on news that matters to you. And for the latest headlines and live updates from our reporters, follow us on Twitter. SABC Digital News, anytime, anywhere.
Health Talk looks into the increase of suicide and symptoms leading to suicide.
The death wish grows when you go into depression after a lot of stress.
And often when we talk about suicide, we don't talk about a person wanting to stop living, but rather wanting to stop living in pain.
After losing everything in life that lead you to no options but suicide.
I had that spirit of fear in me to say, don't even face tomorrow.
After being overwhelmed with stress and trauma, it becomes difficult to have self-control.
People learning tools and skills that will practically enable them to meet these challenges.
In trying times, never be alone. Reach out for help to a better solution.
Support should be done by a counsellor or psychologist where you're able to speak about how you're feeling in a safe, accepting, non-judgmental space.
For all your health tips, join Dr. Silo Mudawuni every Saturday from 9 till 10.
Welcome back. The situation at the University of the Free State is back to normal after 2 weeks of protest that led to the arrest of workers and students. All academic activity and administrative services are in full swing, as was expected by the university. However, the SRC President, Lindo Kuhle Ntuli, says that although they support the resumption of the academic program, the struggle against injustices at the university is not yet over. Earlier, we had our SABC reporter, Palisa Moeti, to give us an update, but right now we're joining again with her to find out what is the latest developments on the campus. A very good morning to you once again, Palisa. Can you tell us what is currently happening? And we also understand that you do have a guest there.
Good morning once again, Elvis. We are still outside the main campus of the University of the Free State. As you said earlier, academic activities have resumed. Administrative services are also available today, but the media is not allowed on campus. The only people that are allowed on campus today are students as well as university personnel. And obviously those are the people that have got access cards onto the campus. We've seen a large police contingent going inside the main campus. They've parked in one area of the campus. We rather called students that are inside because we're not allowed to on campus to check what is going on, and we were told that there was supposed to be a meeting at the student center, and with the police that have been coming in that meeting, it was supposed to be a mass student meeting. It didn't happen because of the strong police presence. Management has informed us that they've made arrangements, so that there's no gatherings of students because of the violence that broke out last week. Now joining us is the Vice Rector of Student Affairs as well as External Services, Dr. Trace Makheta, just to tell us what is the latest on the main campus of the University of the Free State. Dr. Makheta, good day and thank you for joining us this morning.
Good morning.
Just take us through, today. We're seeing a lot of police, yet classes have resumed. It's supposed to be a normal day, but clearly this is not normal. Earlier we even saw a police chopper hovering just above the main campus. What's the status quo?
Okay, yes. It's not yet normal, and we would want to get to that point. The students who are protesting made us aware that protests continue. But at the same time, recognizing that university lost a week of classes and work, we had to ensure that we are able to start today. Now, the huge contingent of police and security is to protect everyone. Those who want to protest, they must protest peacefully. Those who want to go to class, they must be able to trust that they will be safe in class. And those who are working in offices must be able to do that, because as a university, we are responsible for all the lives of people who are in the yard. But currently, as we stand here, the university management, my colleagues are in a meeting with the SRC to go through the agreements we reached last week from the memorandum, the very same responses that they said we didn't answer them. Among those, the issues is the resignation of Professor Jonathan Johnson. And our response as a university, we said, if there's a vote of no confidence on Professor Jonathan Johnson, then the process will still go through Senate and Council and all. But to date, we are not convinced that Professor Jonathan Johnson has not done what he agreed with Council to do. In fact, I was saying to a colleague that for a person who's been with the university for a very long time, he's the first Vice-Chancellor who has meetings without an appointment with students and staff. And for a Vice-Chancellor, it's for the first time where you have a Vice-Chancellor that raises millions just to support poor students who perform academically. Now, we are going through this day trying to unify students and colleagues and going back to their memoranda. Remember, this is not the first memorandum that they gave us. In October last year, 2015, they gave us a memorandum. It had 52 issues on them, and the following day we held a mass meeting with them to go through them. In January, we had another memorandum of 9 issues, and it was around registration. And we worked closely with the SRC, meeting weekly just to make sure that we are able to register far more than we normally are. And now February, this memorandum. But more than anything, it's what we promised them as a starter. The renaming of the Faculty of Law. Already last year we said the law faculty will change from C.R. Swart. And the process started, and the SRC president sits on the naming committee of the university, which is the Committee of Council. And the processes went through the channels in the faculty, students, staff, and everyone. And the new name is Equitas. And now we were just working on removing the symbols, in a respectful way. And we ended up with what we saw. But I think the students were impatient with the process, but the building has been renamed. Language was one of the issues that were in the memorandum. We already told the students that we are going ahead with changing the language policy. However, if you remember, we started a process in June last year to allow students and staff, the community, all stakeholders, private and government, to make sure that they're able to make submissions and to be able to attend discussions on language. And in December, a report went to Council. And it was clear that we have to go the English route with the support of tutorials and stuff in other languages, Sesotho, Zulu, Afrikaans. And now that report is now being used to draft a new policy, language policy, which will go to Council on 11 March. And changing a language is a process. It means if Council accepts what we put on the table, it means we have March up to December to prepare for 2017 for implementation of that. We are working with the students, and we want to make sure that they really trust the process, that transformation does not happen overnight. And I was talking about transformation, and I said, if they want black academics, it's a process to develop things. If they want black management, it's a process. Among black learned people out there are very few who want to work for universities, because when you work for a university, you must forget about salaries, competitive salaries. You must just change your heart. And therefore, those people who want to work within universities are very few. We are basically stealing from one another as 26 universities just to meet the employment equity figures. But I think transformation will work if we work together, students, staff, and the community, because this is a public higher education institution. And transformation begins with an individual person changing how they approach things. For instance, we cannot, in 2016, approach a protest and march in the same way we approached it before 1994. there has to be something changed.
Now, Dr. Choice, let's go into the residences. The students have raised the issue of hostels, certain, hostels being predominantly black and some being predominantly white, with selection processes by students that are going to be living in those residences. Just take us through that. What is your position as management? Is it truly what students are saying?
As management, placement has been an issue for students for years. And we had wished to reach 50-50 placement in residences. But we realized that the demographics are different. Black students are a majority, and therefore you will never get to 50-50 in reses. But in choosing, in placement, that process of a student choosing whether they want to live with or not does not happen only with white and black. It's with black and black. We want students in res to be comfortable and to be sure that because transformation is not easy. Living together, when you come from places where you have, circumstances are different, it's our responsibility as a university to help young people live together. The proposed placement policy, we said to the students, we are going to work together. They wanted placement to shift from housing and residence affairs to the office of the Dean of Students. As much as they say we didn't respond to them, I was surprised when I said, yes, it's moving there, and yes, you will be part of the process, that they still said we didn't answer them. The proposals on the table is that we should take socioeconomic issues into account. There's a lot of young people who come from very poor environments and who would need cheaper accommodation because private accommodation is very expensive. We are even thinking of accommodation for first years only, but the options are many. But the students must come to the table to have these discussions. And it would be wonderful when we request meetings with the student leadership for them to arrive for the meetings, because we will achieve more.
Now, what about the investigation that the university has launched? We saw in a briefing earlier, or rather a statement released by the university, that you've invited people with pictures, videos, whatever happened last week, to come forward. Take us through that investigation and what it entails.
Okay. No. We have a lot of footage of everything that was happening the whole week. And the students requested that we have an independent body investigating. And we agreed that it will be from Monday, from Monday, past Monday to Friday, to make sure that every person, black and white, whether they are associated with the university or not, who took power in their hands, who were involved in an immoral act at a rugby match, who vandalized the university. Now, this part, it's not about race. This part, it's about destroying a public institution. It's about promoting racism. Let me tell you something. That whole incident, as much as we are talking about the investigation, I want to put it straight. It's not about race. The protesters provoked race. Because how do you go to a match and provoke people watching a match? Now, what people did not see on television is that there's a white woman who was clapped before they got into the match. Is that the kind of environment that we want to live in? After the rugby match, protesters targeted one specific race. I mean, if you provoke people sitting in their own race, is that racial? Now, we tend to put a racial tone to things that are wrong. What is wrong is wrong. If a person behaves badly, immoral, taking the law in their hands, it's wrong. It's not race. Now, if we have to deal with issues of race, let's deal with issues of race. But the issues of race are going to take every one of us. Black and white, we have to make a shift. There's no way that transformation requires all of us to shift. You cannot find me standing here and demand that I should stand here because you have to change. All of us have to change. And it's an emotional process. And tomorrow we have a peace and justice walk. The intention is to bring the university community together, but to also agree that we have to build this university and the country. You know, we want a better country, not a country that we are forever judging one another. I can tell you there's a lot of people who really, really work well together, both students and staff.
Thank you very much, Dr. Maketa. That was Dr. Choice Maketa, who is the Vice Rector of Student Affairs as well as External Relations here at the University of the Free State, just taking us through some of the developments at the University of the Free State and saying that tomorrow they'll be holding a reconciliation march just to unite the students once again on campus. With that, it's back to you in the studio.
Thank you, Police. Meanwhile, classes at the University of Pretoria have resumed under tight security. The university came to a standstill last week over Afrikaans as a medium of instruction. Yesterday, the Higher Education Minister, Blade Nzimande, warned the university management and students of a possible racial confrontation at universities if the issue of using Afrikaans as a language of instruction is not addressed. Our reporter Sipho Steerman is monitoring the situation at Tuks and he now joins us to give us the latest. Sipho, tell us what is the latest that's happening on the campus, and we also believe that you do have a guest there.
Yes, well, a very good morning to you again, Elvis. We are still outside the University of Pretoria main campus. Classes have resumed, as we have reported earlier this morning. However, there is great security here. If you can look behind me, there's police and yellers just keeping an eye on every action, and students need to have student cards to be able to gain access. Anyone other than students and the employees of the universities are not allowed, much like there at the University of Free State. The media is not allowed inside. That is why we are broadcasting outside here. But next to me is one of the students that are heavily involved in the protest action that have been taking place here. He is the EFF Student Command President. His name is Gabelo, and he's just going to be telling us about the Student Command's position on the university reopening today. Gabelo, good morning to you. Just tell us, as EFF, are you guys in support of the university reopening its doors this morning?
We are totally against the university's decision to open campus today, because yesterday we had a meeting with them where we discussed and told them that they shouldn't, we asked them actually that they should organize a meeting with us, they should give us their time so we discuss and until we reach an agreement. And again, we asked that they shouldn't open campus today up until we have reached an agreement.
All right. And speaking of our meetings that took place yesterday, we understand that as the EFF Student Command, you walked out of the meeting with the Education Minister, Blade Nzimande. Why did you do that and not actually take part in the discussions and the conversations there?
Blade actually must stop his tendency of trying to waste our time all the times. Blade, we were called into a meeting. When we were going there, it was an understanding that we were going to have an engagement with Blade and management of the university. When we got there, Blade addressed, he insulted us and accused us of causing violence, not wanting to sit down and engage, of just pushing political agendas in the meeting. So we let him speak. After it finished, we asked to be recognized so we can clarify Blade on how far we come from with this program, on how long we have been trying to engage with management, on how long we have been pleading with management to give us their time and negotiate and discuss our memorandum. Blade said that he was never there to listen to us. He was just there to tell us. So, seeing that he has wasted our time, we could not waste any more time. He could have just sent an email, if that's what he wanted to do there.
All right, and then let's talk about now the way forward, because, I mean, you are calling for classes to be suspended. That can't be the state of university forever, that classes are suspended. What do you propose happens moving forward?
We are saying that the university must now come and give us a date and time where they're available. We actually asked for a meeting yesterday, of which they didn't respond, meaning that they were rejecting us once again. But we are saying that the university now must give us a date and time whereby we are going to sit with them and engage on our memorandum. But also, we'd like to map a way forward on how we are going to go forward, addressing the memorandum and everything, because we understand that processes cannot be delayed. But what we are seeing from management is the response of brutality, of crime and everything. Students are being criminalized inside campus. You are being searched, number one, for entering the gates of campus. When you enter the buildings of campus, you are also being searched by security. There's heavy police presence inside campus, not only outside. There's paramedics in campus waiting. What are they waiting for? There's about more than 10 bouncers per gate waiting for students. About 4 of the EFF students were issued with suspension letters. Among those students is a student who's pregnant, who's about to go into labor this month. They are saying that student is a threat to the university community. We are surprised how, because she has never even participated into this strike. So you can see that now it's no longer about trying to solve issues and everything. University of Pretoria agreed to meet with AfriForum National Leadership, not even students. She agreed to meet with people from nationally, but she's refusing to meet with the students here on campus.
Okay, and just very lastly and very briefly, can you just tell us your stand on this Africans Must Fall? Are you still behind that movement? Are you still calling for the language Africans to be scrapped?
When Solomon Mahlangu was assassinated, he said that we must continue the struggle. And that's exactly what we're going to do. The police must also be ready to kill us, because we are seeing Marikana tendencies whereby even paramedics are ready waiting for us, police are armed, bouncers are ready and everything. So we are saying that we are still going to continue the struggle. We are still saying Africans must fall.
Aren't you one of the issues that the minister spoke about was the fact that this can really, the way that it's being addressed is going to create racial tensions among students on campus. Are you not interested in racial harmony and unity on campus, seeing how this played out last week where different races were clashing?
White people are angry on campus because we are saying that they must get the very same treatment that African languages and African people are getting on campus. They think that African people now must always remain inferior and everything. But one of our reasons why we are saying Africans must fall when we are publishing our reasons, we said that these two languages are creating a division of the student body. There's a group of African students which do everything alone, a group of English students which do everything alone. But the very same people are expected to work together in the working environment. That's what we're saying. This two universities in one is creating racial divisions, and it's not creating a social cohesion environment that's suitable for everyone.
All right. Well, that is the EFF student command just telling us that they are not intimidated by the police presence, that they will continue with their call that Africans should fall as a medium of instruction language here at the varsity. And they're saying that they do not agree with the idea of the university being opened with heavy police presence here. They would rather have management sit and talk with them to discuss these issues rather than have the university open its doors again.
Well, that's our reporter Sipho Stierman on the ground there at the University of Pretoria, as you heard there from the young man from the EFF chatting to him. Now, we're going to take a break and we'll be right back after that. Kendall Makamate will be standing by with your sports news. Stay tuned.
I'm Peter Miller.
And I'm production Chetty Miller, SAB Miller, Anheuser-Busch InBev. It's something that I need to learn to say more often.
Will together produce around a third of the world's beer.
It is a mouthful. Have you ever considered skin bleaching?
Nigeria tops the list of African countries with 77% of its women bleaching their skin.
Now I can see that it is not good because it affects my face and some of my body parts.
Thousands of Arab Israelis and Palestinians participated in a big rally. Flight MH17 was shot down by a Russian-made missile.
How those chips may fall is a prediction best left to the currency of time.
That's Primetime News, Africa Journal, and your world on SABC News.
Controlesa is actually stirring the pot here.
I'm sure they've been consulted as Controlesa. They did not see a snake. Now that in certain areas there are certain benefits that might possibly be accruing, there is a snake, now we need to reverse the process.
I agree, but it is not above the sovereignty of the people. The very same court you're talking about.
The sovereignty of the people, probably you should explain that to me.
The sovereignty of the people is above everything.
It is not proper the way facts are presented to the public. Are you in contact with Khosekgolo Motshodi?
He was kicked out by the court because he wanted to be amicus curiae.
For your weekly dose of all things legal, join Dumile Mateza every Sunday at 2 p.m. only on SABC News Channel.
Good morning, welcome back. I'm Kendall Makamate and I've got your sports on Newsroom. The Davis Cup is almost upon us. Next weekend, from the 4th to the 6th of March, South Africa will be battling it out with Luxembourg in a Europe-Africa Group 2 tie at the Arini Country Club just outside Pretoria. Last night, I spoke to team member Dean O'Brien. I started by asking him how it is that he got to be a specialist doubles player for the team.
About a year ago, I decided to, stop playing singles and start focusing more on doubles. I felt like my game was more suited to doubles. I felt like I could get, to the top, to the ATP circuit quicker in doubles. And so far, I'm happy I made that decision.
Now, you just come off a very interesting time out in the States, in Dallas. Can you tell us a bit about what happened in Dallas?
Yeah, started my year in Asia and then moved on over to the States. Had a fantastic week in Dallas. Actually was the first tournament I'd played with that partner. We clicked, we gelled, and ended up making the finals of the 100K tournament there, which, got my ranking closer to one of my short-term goals, which was top 100. So it definitely helped.
You're right now sitting on 123, I believe.
That's right, yes.
Cool. So how much further do you have? Look, you're trying to get into the top 100. What more do you need to do? Are you going to be able to get ranking points anytime in the next few months?
Absolutely. I play on Saturday, doubles. On Friday and Sunday is the two singles ties. And Sunday night, I'm out of here to Mexico for a month. So straight away.
Now, the Arini Country Club is a happy hunting ground for you because some of the photos that we're showing our viewers right now are the last time out in the Davis Cup when you won the clinch in the doubles against Ireland, again in the Davis Cup. Are you feeling lucky again?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Arini is an unbelievable venue. It's a great little stadium. It gets nice and full. I had such a fantastic experience there. That was the first time I'd won a Davis Cup tie, and let alone the clincher. So I've got good memories there, and I'm really looking forward to a fantastic, weekend ahead.
Now, Luxembourg is a team that South Africa has never faced before in the Davis Cup, at least. What do you know of your opponents?
Well, South Africa's ranked 56th on the world rankings. They're 58, so, I mean, that's...
Very close.
Yeah, it shows that we're pretty similar. Right now they've named 4 guys that have arrived yesterday. Their top guy hasn't been named. However, he can still be put in the team. They have until Thursday. They have a guy who's 40. I think he's 45 in the world. So, it's it could be a close one. It all just, in Davis Cup, anything can happen. All sorts of stuff has happened in Davis Cup. So it should be a good one.
Now, if I've got it right, you train in the U.S.?
Yes, I'm based in Atlanta.
Now, here's a quick one. How's that helped your tennis, and why is it that we don't have similar facilities to help someone like yourself right here in South Africa?
You know what? I'm not sure. Tennis South Africa is really trying to, build tennis. They had 3 futures tournaments in Stellenbosch at the end of last year. Right now, their focus is having less big tournaments, more small tournaments, to sort of help the younger guys get points and an ATP ranking. As for me, I went to university in the States, so I went to school in Atlanta, and it just seemed like a natural progression for me to be based there. I'm able to reach a lot more high-level tournaments being based in the States. And Atlanta's a good city because I can pretty much get to any city in the world on a direct flight, and that's how I ended up there.
You mentioned the futures. There's massive injection, fairly new injection. In fact, I had a chat with a favorite guest of mine, Bruce Davidson, a couple of months ago about the futures out in Stellenbosch. What do you make of it, and how it's going to build up tennis in South Africa?
Well, it's a fantastic step forward for us. We need to get as many as we can in the country because with these tournaments, our younger guys, our 15, 16, 17, 18-year-olds are able to, number one, get ranking points onto the list to help jumpstart them and jumpstart their career. And number two, they get exposed to the level. Pro tennis is at a seriously high level at the moment, and exposure to that is what will really help them, with more of these tournaments in the country.
Tell me, what's the mood in the camp like with it? It's a small team. You guys really need to at least get on in the field of play. What is it like for you guys?
I mean, we're all great friends. I actually just arrived last night, so I haven't seen them yet. I'll see them all tomorrow morning. But no, everyone's very close. We've got a group chat that everyone's cracking some jokes, having some fun, and I mean, that's one thing I feel like South Africa's been very good at. I mean, in the past, we've had ties where we've been underdogs but have won, and I feel like that's because, we come together, we're very supportive, we're always super loud on the side supporting each other, and I think that's a reason why we've had good success.
Now, to break into Group 1, what needs to happen?
Well, first step will be to beat Luxembourg this weekend. And then, to be honest, I'm not too sure who our draw is against. I think Lithuania is one of the teams. So we'd play the winner of Lithuania, whichever other country that is. And if we can get that win, if I'm not mistaken, that would put us into Group 1, which is where we really need to be.
Everybody's trying to get you guys into, because we know once you're in there, you start hitting the big time. Then from then on, it's like world playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, anything can happen. I mean, Great Britain just won the last one. Who would have thought? And Yeah, if we could get into Group 1, that would really help get us closer to World Group, which is really where you want to be. And especially with such, tennis in South Africa having such a good heritage, it would be really nice to, get there again.
There you have it. That tie will be played between the 4th and 6th of March this coming weekend. South African teams are to face stiff opposition in the next round of the CAF Champions League and the Confederation Cup. Kaizer Chiefs, Mamelodi Sundowns and Bidvest progressed this weekend, while Ajax Cape Town were knocked out. Chiefs and Sundowns have been drawn against ASEC Mimosa and AC Leopards, respectively. Vets, on the other hand, will play Azam of Tanzania in the Confederation Cup. Now, here's a quick summary of all the PSL results from the weekend's action in the Absa Premiership. As you can see, Tuks beating Chippa United 3-0. Jomo Cosmos losing 4-2 to SuperSport United in Potchefstroom. At Orlando Stadium, Orlando Pirates beat Bloem Celtic 1-0. A really important win for Orlando Pirates, that was. Then yesterday, Golden Arrows beating Platinum Stars 1-0 as well in Chatsworth, just outside Durban. Quick look at the logs starting in the top half. Mamelodi Sundowns, they played 21, they've won 15, they're sitting on 49 points at 7 points clear of next place. Bidvest was second with 42 points. Kaizer Chiefs on 39 points on 21 matches as well. We then go through to Aces, Platinum Stars, Chippa United, Orlando Pirates and Golden Arrows jumping into the top 8 on 29 and 28 points respectively. Bottom half of the PSL, you see the bottom half of the PSL, some movement there. Free State Stars slipping downwards, SuperSport going upwards, seemingly trying to get into the top 8. Ajax Cape Town slipping downwards, and Tuks and Maritzburg United are still sitting at the bottom, rock bottom, minus 14 and minus 19 goal difference respectively. And staying with football, Old Trafford was buzzing again as young Marcus Rashford scored twice and set up Ander Herrera in a league match to give Manchester United a 3-2 win against Arsenal, putting a dampener on their title aspirations. Here are the highlights of the 5-goal thriller.
Herrera, first time, and it came for Marcus Rashford, and the fairy tale has a second chapter. Play off by Mata, Varela, it's in by Lingard, it's again! 2 in 3 minutes for the new darling of Old Trafford. Heavy artillery forward, and that is one back. Danny Welbeck with little celebration. Rashford. Herrera wants it and has it and scores. Sanchez once more. Welbeck. And Ozil. Arsenal weren't too behind for long. Mesut Ozil again brings them within one. Dexterously defended, but the game's up for Arsenal. A severe blow to the Gunners' title hopes. And given the paucity of senior players available to him.
And that's exactly how it ended, 3-2 to Manchester United at Old Trafford. Now, as you all know, Super Rugby 2016 kicked off over the weekend. Now, here are the results from all of the action from that opening weekend of Super Rugby 2016. As you can see, 9 matches played throughout the weekend, starting on Friday evening and Friday morning, rather, 33-31 for the Blues against the Highlanders defending champions. Then Brumbies thrashing the Hurricanes 52-10. Cheetahs losing by a single point to the Jaguares in Bloemfontein, 33-34 the scoreline there. Then on Saturday, 6 matches played, starting at 6:15 in the morning. The Lions out in Tokyo, beating Sunwolves 26-13, Chiefs 27-21, and the Waratahs thrashing the Reds 30-10. Then 19-25 for the Force against Rebels. Kings losing 8-43 against the Sharks. And then the Stormers in a traditional old derby beating the Bulls 33-9 in Cape Town. Then we've also got a quick look at the logs as well. In the logs, we've got the South African group number 1 and 2 are the Sharks, the South African 2 leader, and Stormers are South African 1 leader on 5 points apiece, just a points differential keeping them apart. And then they're followed through by, interestingly enough, the Lions, Jaguares, Cheetahs, Sunwolves, Bulls, and Kings have a look at the Australasian group. The Australasian group, the Brumbies, AC leaders, they've put the Hurricanes to the sword, and they're sitting on 5 points and 42 points differential. Chiefs are the New Zealand Conference leaders, are sitting on a 6 points differential. They're number 2 in that particular log. And right at the bottom, you see you've got Force, Reds, and Hurricanes, with the rest filling up the middle. And that's where we leave it with the sports. I really enjoyed that weekend, really enjoyed bringing this to you. Now I hand over back to Elvis Preslin.
Thank you, Kendall. Now, as you know, this week, it was a tumultuous week with all student protests at the various universities that we've seen, and we're now joined by social commentator Dr. Leonard Martin, who will take a look at the week that passed and some of the major stories that unfolded during the week. But there is no major story. The major story was the protest at the universities. We also ask you a question, of course, around that. But, Doctor, a very warm welcome to you. And
good morning.
Here
listeners.
Here this morning, we're sitting with the university protest. This calm has been restored at the University of Pretoria as well as in the Free State. But it seems there's a problem. And in your assessment, is the state of higher learning and education really under threat here in the country?
I think we can look at it in two ways. That this crisis, in fact, is almost, in a peculiar way, heaven sent in order for us to look at the whole history and the policies. What is behind the crisis? In order to understand this crisis, we need to look through it. And the questions that are posed, does higher education have a policy of transformation aligned with transformation in South African society? Let us recall, at bottom, these are deep social crises. Our universities were inherited as racialist, hierarchical structures. With the onset of democracy, major questions were posed in terms of what type of society we are aspiring to, are becoming. As a non-racial society, are we going to sustain what can be called a cultural relativist society where ethnic groups continue to be separated structurally within society and within our institutions, or are we really aspiring to be a non-racial, pluralist society where the society is open to all in terms of their aspirations, both socially but also educationally in terms of the values and standards that would make up such a society? So at bottom, this crisis is actually saying to us there is an absence of a thoroughgoing strategy of transformation.
Race relations, language policies has been seen as some of the contributory factors to the problems that we've seen at the universities, especially the Free State and Pretoria. What does this say, though, about our race relations in the country?
Well, what the crisis is revealing, that we have major issues to deal with in terms of human relations. You see, these race relations become significant only in terms of how they are embedded or resolved within structures and institutions and society at large. Without that, they are meaningless. The issue is, are we pursuing still a hierarchical society where ethnicity and race become determining factors in terms of the future of these institutions, especially of the future of our youth?
Now, if you look at these institutions individually, the University of Pretoria, the Vice-Chancellor there, Cheryl De La Rey, the first person of colour in the job in that institution, 101 years in that history, and Professor Jonathan Jansen, also the first person of colour at the UFS, they seem to be the targets at this particular protest. What can we read into these attacks on VCs of colour?
Well, I think, first of all, there's no logic, really, to these attacks. The issue is, are these attacks focused on the structures of these universities? Are these structures open to be changed, transformed, and aligned to the objectives of South African society? You, for example, could pose questions, should we get rid of some of the leaders of the JSE? Is the JSE aligned to the objectives of South African society? So I think we need to come back to seriousness and to reality, that it's not so much the individual leader at these institutions, but do these leaders signify real transformation?
And infrastructural change.
Absolutely, absolutely.
What impact does this have on our society when we have dissonance in our institutions of higher learning?
Well, what it basically means is that we're a society that's ill at ease with transformation. This crisis will not take place had transformation been introduced and sustained as many of us thought and hoped was happening. But the crisis actually is saying to us there's a confluence of factors. And so, South African society urgently needs to attend to this, particularly in relation to the youth that are meant to be empowered through these institutions.
Doctor, as usual, thank you very much for your time. We've run out of time, unfortunately. There's a number of other questions that we wanted to pose to you because that's an important question, and that's a question that we posed to you today on the Twitter handle that you could comment on. Is there maybe a ray of light at the end of our dark tunnel in terms of our institutions of higher learning? We wanted to know from you, but unfortunately it seems like we've completely out of time this morning. And that's how we say goodbye. From myself, Elvis Preston, Kendall Makamate, hopefully Eben Janssen will be back tomorrow. He is just off for today, so we'll be back here with Newsroom tomorrow, same time, same place from 9 till 12. We hope that you stay tuned. Ciao for now. Arrivederci.